Maya Collins stood in the doorway of the apartment she'd shared for 3 years, watching her boyfriend of 5 years tangled in sheets with her best friend. The coffee cups she'd brought, 2 lattes, extra foam, just the way they both liked, slipped from her hands and shattered across the hardwood floor. But the sound that escaped her throat was worse. It was the sound of a woman's entire world collapsing in real time. That night, she would make a decision that would change everything, booking a stranger for one night, not for intimacy, but to prove she wasn't destroyed. What she didn't know was that the man who would walk through that hotel room door wasn't the one she'd hired. And by morning, nothing would ever be the same. If you want to see where this story goes, stay with me until the end. And don't forget to hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The Saturday morning had started like any other Saturday for the past 3 years. Maya had woken early, slipped out of bed while the city was still quiet, and driven to the coffee shop on 5th Street, the one with the terrible parking, but the perfect foam. She'd ordered 2 lattes and 1 cappuccino, humming along to the radio on the drive back. The cappuccino was hers. The lattes were for Daniel and Rebecca. Daniel Chen, her boyfriend of 5 years, the man who'd promised her forever during a sunset in Santorini 2 summers ago. The man who'd held her through her father's funeral and told her she'd never face anything alone again. Rebecca Martinez, her best friend since college, the woman who'd helped her move into this apartment, the woman who'd talked her down from countless panic attacks about work, about life, about whether she was good enough, smart enough, pretty enough. Maya had felt generous that morning, charitable even. Rebecca had been going through a rough breakup, and Daniel had offered to let her crash on their couch for a few days. Maya had thought it was sweet. She thought it showed what a good man Daniel was, what a solid foundation they'd built together. She'd thought a lot of stupid things. The apartment door had been unlocked. That should have been her first clue. Daniel was obsessive about locks, about security systems, about checking the windows before bed. But Maya had simply smiled, balancing the drink carrier in one hand while fishing for her keys with the other. The living room was empty. The couch, the one where Rebecca was supposedly sleeping, was perfectly made, decorative pillows arranged just the way Maya had left them yesterday morning. "Babe," Maya had called out, her voice echoing in the high-ceilinged space. "Becca? I brought coffee." No answer. She'd walked down the hallway, past the bathroom, past the guest room, toward the master bedroom. Their bedroom. The door had been cracked open, just slightly. Just enough. Just enough for Maya's entire world to end. Daniel had been on his back, eyes closed, one hand tangled in Rebecca's dark hair. Rebecca had been straddling him, her head thrown back, making sounds Maya had only heard through the walls they shared, sounds Maya had thought were meant for her. The coffee cups hit the floor before Maya's brain could process what to do with them. The sound was spectacular. 3 drinks, $6 each, exploding across bamboo floors in a wave of cream and espresso and shattered ceramic. Daniel's eyes snapped open. "Maya!" But Rebecca was faster. She rolled off him, grabbing for the sheets, her face cycling through expressions faster than Maya could track. Shock, guilt, fear. Something else Maya couldn't name. "Oh, God," Rebecca whispered. "Maya, Get out." Maya's voice didn't sound like her own. It was too calm, too measured, too cold. It was the voice of a stranger living inside her body, a stranger who'd apparently decided to take over all motor functions because Maya herself had stopped working. "Maya, listen." Daniel was on his feet now, reaching for his boxers, his hands shaking. It's not what you—" "I said get out." Maya took a step backward, then another. Her heel caught in the puddle of spilled latte and she stumbled, catching herself against the door frame. "Both of you, get out of my apartment." "Your apartment?" Daniel's face was flushing now, shifting from panic to something uglier. "I've been paying half the rent for 3 years. The lease is in my name. Get out." She'd turned and walked away then, her legs moving on autopilot, carrying her back down the hallway, through the living room, out the door she'd entered through just 3 minutes ago. 3 minutes. That's all it had taken for 5 years to disintegrate. Maya had stood in the parking lot of her own apartment building for 20 minutes, staring at her car, trying to remember how to open the door. Behind her, she could hear shouting. Daniel's voice, raised and defensive. Rebecca's, high and pleading. The sound of drawers opening and closing. Footsteps on stairs. She didn't turn around. She didn't watch them leave. She just stood there, frozen, while her phone buzzed with incoming texts she wouldn't read for hours. When the sounds finally stopped, when the parking lot fell quiet again, Maya got in her car and drove. She didn't have a destination. She just drove through the streets of Seattle as the morning stretched into afternoon, as the sky shifted from pink to blue to gray. She drove past the restaurant where Daniel had proposed, not with a ring, just with a promise that one day soon he'd make it official. She drove past the bookstore where she'd first met Rebecca, both of them reaching for the same copy of a thriller neither of them ended up reading. She drove until the gaslight came on, until her hands were numb from gripping the steering wheel, until the sun started its descent toward the Olympics and she realized she had nowhere to go. Not home. Not to her mother's house, where she'd have to explain, have to say the words out loud. Not to any of her friends, because Rebecca had been her person, her emergency contact, her safe place to land. Maya pulled into a gas station somewhere in Belltown, filled the tank with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, and walked inside to pay. The fluorescent lights were too bright. Everything was too bright, too sharp, too real. Rough day? The clerk was maybe 19 with green hair and kind eyes. He was looking at Maya with the sort of gentle concern usually reserved for lost children and wounded animals. Something like that, Maya managed. You okay to drive? I'm fine. She wasn't fine. She was the opposite of fine. She was shattered coffee cups on bamboo floors. She was 5 years of wasted trust. She was the sound of her best friend moaning her boyfriend's name. Maya paid, left, sat in her car in the gas station parking lot, while the evening deepened around her. She pulled out her phone finally, bracing herself for the damage. 47 text messages, 12 missed calls, 3 voicemails. She deleted them all without reading or listening, every single one. Then she opened her browser and typed before she could think better of it. Seattle Escort Services. The search results loaded. Maya stared at them, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. What was she doing? This was insane. This was absolutely insane. But something in her chest, something raw and wounded and desperately angry, pushed her forward. She clicked on the first link, then the second, then the third. An hour later, she'd narrowed it down to one agency. The website was professional, discreet, with reviews that mentioned respect and boundaries and safety. The prices made her wince, but she had her credit card in her hand before she could talk herself out of it. She didn't want intimacy. The thought of being touched right now made her skin crawl. She just wanted, what? Proof that she could still make decisions? Proof that she wasn't completely broken? Proof that she was more than the woman who'd been betrayed in her own bed? Maya booked a room at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel, somewhere she'd never been with Daniel, somewhere with no memories attached. Then she filled out the agency's intake form, her fingers moving faster than her thoughts. Companionship only. No physical contact beyond what's necessary for appearances. Just need someone to sit with me for a few hours. We'll pay full rate. She submitted the form, received a confirmation email, stared at her phone screen until the words stopped making sense. What had she just done? Maya drove to the hotel in a daze, checked in with a smile that felt like a mask, rode the elevator to the 8th floor with her overnight bag clutched to her chest. The room was beautiful, all soft grays and clean lines, with a view of Elliott Bay that probably cost extra. She stood at the window and watched the ferries cutting through dark water, their lights bright against the gathering night. Behind her reflection in the glass, she could see the room, the king-size bed with its crisp white linens, the sitting area with its elegant couch and coffee table, the bathroom visible through an open door, all marble and chrome. This was stupid. This was so incredibly stupid. Maya was reaching for her phone to cancel, to apologize, to admit she'd made a terrible mistake, when someone knocked on the door. Her heart stopped, then restarted at triple speed. "Just a minute," she called, her voice barely audible. She crossed to the door, checked the peephole out of habit, saw a man's silhouette in the hallway. Tall, broad-shouldered, face turned slightly away. Maya took a breath. Another. Then she opened the door. The man standing in the hallway wasn't what she'd expected. He was in his early 30s, dressed in dark jeans and a navy sweater that looked expensive but understated. His hair was dark, slightly tousled, and his face was tired. That was the first thing Maya noticed. Not handsome or forgettable or anything in between, just tired with shadows under dark eyes and tension in his jaw that suggested he'd had a day almost as bad as hers. "Hi," she said, stepping back. "Come in." He hesitated in the doorway, those tired eyes sweeping over the room, over her, with an expression she couldn't quite read. Confusion? Concern? "I think there might be a mistake," he said slowly. "No mistake." Maya gestured toward the sitting area, trying to channel confidence she absolutely didn't feel. "I booked the room. I made the request. It's all paid for." Another hesitation. Then he stepped inside and Maya closed the door behind him. They stood there in awkward silence for a long moment. Maya had imagined this going differently. She'd imagined feeling in control, powerful, like she was making a choice that mattered. Instead, she just felt lost. "Listen," the man said finally, "I think you have me confused with, I don't want to have sex with you." The words came out too fast, too sharp. Maya winced. "Sorry, that sounded, I just mean, that's not why you're here. I just wanted someone to sit with me, someone who doesn't know me, someone who won't judge." Something shifted in his expression. The confusion was still there, but underneath it now was something softer. Understanding, maybe. Or pity. God, she hoped it wasn't pity. "Okay," he said quietly. "Where do you want me to sit?" Maya gestured to the couch. He crossed to it, moving with an easy grace that suggested athleticism, or at least someone comfortable in his own body. He sat, leaving plenty of space on the other end, his hands resting loosely on his knees. Maya remained standing, suddenly unsure what to do with herself. She'd planned this, paid for this, and now she had no idea what came next. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked. "About what?" "Whatever brought you here." Maya laughed, and it sounded broken even to her own ears. "Do you have a few hours?" "Actually," he glanced at his watch, "that's exactly what I have." So she sat. Not on the couch, she couldn't quite manage that yet, but on the floor across from him, her back against the bed, her legs stretched out in front of her. And she talked. She told him about Daniel and Rebecca, about the coffee cups and the sounds and the way her whole life had shattered in the space between one heartbeat and the next. She told him about driving aimlessly, about the gas station clerk with green hair, about the search term she'd typed into her browser while sitting under fluorescent lights. She told him everything except her name. And he listened. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes, didn't try to fix anything. He just sat there on the couch, his dark eyes steady on her face, and listened like her words actually mattered. "I just feel so stupid," Maya heard herself say. 5 years? How did I not see it? How did I not know? "Because you trusted them," he said simply. "That's not stupidity, that's love." "Love is stupid then." "Sometimes," he agreed, "but the alternative is worse." Maya looked up at him, really looked for the first time. There was something in his voice, something that suggested he wasn't just theorizing. He knew. Somehow, this stranger knew what she was talking about. "You sound like you're speaking from experience," she said. A muscle worked in his jaw. "My wife died 4 years ago. Cancer. We'd been married for 3 years." The air went out of the room. Maya felt it leave, felt the weight of his words settling between them like something physical. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have." "Don't." He held up a hand. "You didn't know. And I'm not telling you to make you feel bad. I'm just saying, I understand what it feels like when your life doesn't look anything like you thought it would." They sat in silence for a while after that. It wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It was something else, something almost companionable, two people who'd been broken in different ways sharing the same space. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said eventually. "Sure. Why are you being so nice to me?" He smiled then, just slightly, just enough to soften the tired lines around his eyes. "Why wouldn't I be?" "Because I literally hired you to sit here and listen to me complain." That earned her a real smile. Is that what you think is happening here? Isn't it? He was quiet for a long moment, something working behind his eyes. Then he leaned forward, elbows on his knees. What if I told you there was a mistake? That I'm not who you think I am? Maya's stomach dropped. What? I got off the elevator on the wrong floor. My room is supposed to be 914. This is 814. And when you opened the door and told me to come in, I realized you thought I was someone else, but you looked so lost. So I stayed. The room tilted. Maya gripped the carpet beneath her hands, trying to ground herself. You're not from the agency. No. So you're just some random guy who walked into my hotel room. Technically, you invited me in. Oh my God. Maya dropped her head into her hands. Oh my God, I just told you everything. I told you about Daniel and Rebecca, and she looked up at him, panic clawing at her chest. Who are you? My name is Ethan, he said quietly. Ethan Walker, and I promise you, everything you told me stays in this room. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. He stood up slowly, carefully, like he was trying not to spook a wild animal. You should call security. You should have me thrown out, but I'm asking you not to. Why? Because I think you needed someone to listen tonight, and I'm glad I could do that for you, even if it was by accident. Maya stared at him. Ethan, not an escort, just a man who'd gotten off on the wrong floor and somehow ended up hearing her entire pathetic story. She should have been mortified, should have been angry, should have been a lot of things. Instead, she started laughing. It started as a giggle, high and slightly hysterical, and built into something bigger. Soon she was doubled over, tears streaming down her face, laughing so hard she couldn't breathe. I'm sorry, she gasped between laughs. I'm sorry, this whole day has been completely insane, Ethan offered. Yes, she wiped her eyes, still giggling. Absolutely insane. I found my boyfriend in bed with my best friend. I booked an escort, and instead I got a random stranger who just happened to wander into my room. When you put it that way, it does sound pretty surreal. The laughter faded, leaving behind something fragile and honest. Maya looked at Ethan, really looked at him, and saw someone who'd been just as lost as she was when he'd knocked on that door. Thank you, she said softly, for listening, even though you didn't have to. You're welcome. He moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, your ex is an idiot, and your friend is worse. You don't even know me. I know you well enough. He opened the door, stepped into the hallway. Take care of yourself, Maya. She froze. I never told you my name. He smiled, just a little sad around the edges. You programmed the elevator with your room number. Your keycard was on the counter when I came in. It has your name on it. Then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him, leaving Maya alone in a hotel room that suddenly felt enormous. She sat there on the floor for a long time, processing everything that had just happened. The betrayal, the impulse decision, the wrong room, the right stranger, the conversation that had somehow helped more than it had any right to. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Daniel, probably. Or Rebecca, or one of the dozen mutual friends who'd undoubtedly heard by now. Maya silenced it without looking. Then she stood up, crossed to the bed, and lay down on top of the covers. She stared at the ceiling and tried to remember how to feel anything other than numb. Somewhere around midnight, she finally fell asleep, still in her clothes, still trying to make sense of a day that had started with coffee cups and ended with a stranger who'd listened like her pain actually mattered. When she woke, the sun was streaming through the windows and someone was knocking on her door. Maya stumbled to answer it, expecting housekeeping or room service she hadn't ordered. Instead, she found a hotel employee with an apologetic expression and an envelope. Miss Collins, this was left at the front desk for you. Maya took the envelope with numb fingers, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed before opening it. Inside was a single card, heavy stock, with just a few words written in confident handwriting. You're not broken. You're just breaking through to something better. Maya read it 3 times. Then she tucked it into her wallet, next to her credit cards and her driver's license and all the other pieces of her supposedly organized life. She showered, dressed, checked out, drove home through Sunday morning traffic, past the restaurant with its empty promises, past the bookstore where friendships began and ended. When she pulled into her parking lot, Daniel's car was gone. Rebecca's was gone. For the first time in 12 hours, Maya was truly alone. She went upstairs, opened the door to her apartment, and stood in the entryway taking inventory. The coffee stains were still on the floor. She'd deal with those later. The bed was unmade, sheets twisted. She'd burn those tomorrow. But for now, she had work to do. Maya spent the rest of Sunday cleaning, organizing, erasing every trace of Daniel Chen from her life. She boxed up his clothes, his books, his collection of craft beer he'd never actually drank. She bagged Rebecca's overnight things, the toothbrush by the sink, the phone charger on the coffee table, the jacket hanging by the door. By evening, her apartment looked like hers again. Just hers, clean and empty and ready for something new. Her phone rang while she was taking out the last of the trash. Unknown number. Maya almost didn't answer, but something made her swipe to accept. Hello? Ms. Collins, this is Jennifer Park from Pacific Marketing Solutions. Maya's heart stuttered. Pacific Marketing Solutions, one of the biggest agencies in Seattle. She'd applied there 6 months ago, gotten a polite rejection email, moved on. Yes? We have your resume on file and we'd like to schedule an interview for our senior marketing director position. Would you be available Tuesday morning? Maya looked around her empty apartment, at the boxes stacked by the door, at the clean slate she'd spent all day creating. Yes, she said. Tuesday morning works perfectly. She hung up in a daze. An interview at PMS for a director position. Maybe Ethan was right. Maybe she wasn't breaking. Maybe she was breaking through. Maya smiled just a little and went inside to start preparing for whatever came next. Tuesday morning arrived with the kind of clarity that only comes after a storm. Maya stood in front of her bathroom mirror, applying mascara with steady hands, and barely recognized the woman staring back at her. It had been 48 hours since she'd found Daniel and Rebecca together. 48 hours since she'd made the worst decision of her life. Or maybe the best one, depending on how she looked at it. The interview was at 10. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, a charcoal gray suit that made her look professional and confident, paired with a silk blouse the color of deep burgundy. Power colors, her mother would have called them. Maya just called them armor. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Another text from Daniel. She'd blocked Rebecca days ago, but Daniel was persistent. We need to talk, please. This isn't fair to either of us. Maya deleted it without responding. Fair. He wanted to talk about fair. She finished her makeup, grabbed her portfolio, and headed out into a morning that smelled like rain and new beginnings. Pacific Marketing Solutions occupied the top 3 floors of a gleaming building in downtown Seattle, all glass and steel and ambition. Maya had walked past it 100 times, had admired it from a distance, had never quite believed she'd actually make it inside. The lobby was exactly what she'd expected. Modern furniture, abstract art, a reception desk that looked like it cost more than her car. The receptionist smiled at her with the kind of warmth that seemed genuine. Maya Collins, here for an interview with Jennifer Park. Of course, Ms. Park is expecting you. If you'll just take the elevator to the 23rd floor, someone will meet you there. Maya nodded her thanks and crossed to the elevator bank, her heels clicking against marble floors. She pressed the button, waited, tried to calm the nervous energy thrumming through her veins. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. Maya stepped inside, pressed 23, and watched the doors begin to close. Hold the door! Maya's hand shot out automatically, triggering the sensor. The doors bounced open again, and a man rushed inside, slightly breathless. Thanks, I appreciate... He looked up, and the words died in his throat. Maya's heart stopped. It was him. Ethan, the stranger from the hotel room, the man who'd listened to her fall apart and then disappeared with nothing but a note about breaking through. He looked different in daylight, in a tailored suit that probably cost more than her entire outfit. His hair was neatly styled, his face clean-shaven, and those tired eyes were sharper now, more alert, but it was definitely him. Maya, he said, and her name in his voice sent something electric down her spine. Ethan. She couldn't quite manage more than that. Her brain was trying to process what he was doing here, in this building, in this elevator, looking like he belonged here. What are you... I work here, he said, just as the elevator started rising. What are you doing here? I have an interview. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or concern, or something she couldn't name. With Jennifer Park? Yes. How did you... The elevator chimed. 23rd floor. The doors slid open to reveal a sleek reception area and a woman in her 40s with perfectly styled black hair and a smile that could sell anything. Ms. Collins, perfect timing. I'm Jennifer Park. She extended her hand, and Maya shook it automatically, still trying to process Ethan's presence beside her. I see you've met our CEO. The world tilted sideways. CEO. Ethan was the CEO of Pacific Marketing Solutions. The man she'd poured her heart out to in a hotel room. The man who'd seen her at her absolute lowest was the CEO of the company where she was interviewing. We've met, Ethan said smoothly, and Maya heard the subtext loud and clear. Don't panic. We'll figure this out. Wonderful. Jennifer was already moving down the hallway, gesturing for Maya to follow. Mr. Walker has been very involved in the hiring process for this position. He'll be sitting in on your interview, if that's all right. Maya's mouth had gone completely dry. Of course. She followed Jennifer down a corridor lined with awards and framed campaign materials, acutely aware of Ethan walking slightly behind her. She could feel his presence like a physical thing, could sense his gaze on her back. This was a nightmare. This was worse than finding Daniel with Rebecca. This was professional suicide dressed up as an opportunity. Jennifer led them into a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. The view was stunning. Ferries cutting through gray water, the Olympics rising in the distance, the same view Maya had seen from her hotel window on Saturday night. Please, have a seat. Jennifer gestured to one side of a massive table. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? Water would be great, Maya managed, sinking into a chair and trying to look like her entire world wasn't imploding for the second time in 72 hours. Ethan took the seat beside Jennifer, directly across from Maya. He'd composed himself completely, his expression professional and neutral. If she hadn't known better, she'd think they'd never met before. Jennifer poured water from a pitcher, slid a glass across to Maya, and opened a folder. So, Ms. Collins, I have to say your portfolio is impressive. The Riverside campaign you led last year increased client engagement by 47% in just 6 months. Maya forced herself to focus, to be present, to remember why she was here. Thank you. That campaign was challenging because we had a limited budget and a very specific demographic to reach. We decided to focus on authentic storytelling rather than traditional advertising. And it clearly worked. Jennifer made a note. Tell me about your approach to team leadership. The senior marketing director position would put you in charge of 8 direct reports. Maya could do this. She'd been preparing for questions like this her entire career. She talked about collaborative environments, about empowering team members, about clear communication and shared goals. She talked about failures and what she'd learned from them, about risks that paid off and risks that didn't. And through it all, she felt Ethan watching her. Not like he was judging, more like he was seeing something Jennifer couldn't. What would you say is your biggest weakness? Jennifer asked, 20 minutes into the interview. It was a standard question, one Maya had answered a dozen times. But with Ethan sitting across from her, knowing what he knew about her, the answer felt different. I trust too easily, she said quietly. I give people the benefit of the doubt, and sometimes that comes back to hurt me. But I'm learning to trust my instincts more, to recognize when something feels off. Jennifer nodded, making another note. But Ethan's expression shifted just slightly, a flicker of understanding that told Maya he heard what she wasn't saying. The interview continued for another 30 minutes. They discussed campaigns, strategies, client management, company culture. Maya fell into the rhythm of it, letting her expertise carry her through questions about market analysis and brand positioning. Finally, Jennifer closed her folder and smiled. I think we've covered everything I needed to know. Mr. Walker, do you have any questions for Ms. Collins? Ethan had been mostly quiet throughout the interview, occasionally asking a clarifying question, but largely letting Jennifer lead. Now he leaned forward, his dark eyes locked on Maya's. Just one, he said. What are you looking for in your next position? Not the job description answer, the real one. Maya met his gaze and didn't look away. I want to work somewhere that values integrity, where people say what they mean and mean what they say, where I can trust that the person sitting across from me is being honest, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Something passed between them, a recognition, an acknowledgement of everything they weren't saying out loud. That's what we try to build here, Ethan said softly. A culture of honesty. Jennifer stood, seemingly oblivious to the undercurrent in the room. Thank you so much for coming in, Ms. Collins. We'll be in touch by the end of the week with our decision. Maya shook her hand, gathered her portfolio, and stood on legs that felt unsteady. She was almost to the door when Ethan spoke again. Ms. Collins, could I have a word privately? Jennifer's eyebrows rose slightly, but she smiled. Of course. I'll walk you out after, Ms. Collins. She left, closing the door behind her. And suddenly Maya was alone with Ethan in a conference room overlooking the city, and neither of them was pretending anymore. I didn't know, Maya said immediately. I had no idea you worked here. If I'd known, you would have canceled the interview. Yes. Ethan stood, crossed to the windows, his back to her. I need you to understand something. Your interview today had nothing to do with Saturday night. Jennifer has been tracking your work for months. She reached out to you because you're good at what you do. But you knew, Maya said. When you saw me in the elevator, you knew I was here to interview. I suspected. I didn't know for sure until Jennifer confirmed it. He turned to face her. And I want to be very clear about something else. Whatever happens with this job offer, if we make you an offer, it will be based entirely on your qualifications, not on what happened between us. Nothing happened between us. Exactly. His voice was firm. Nothing happened. You needed someone to listen, and I listened. That's all. It doesn't change the fact that you're an exceptional candidate for this position. Maya wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But the timing of it all felt wrong, felt too convenient, felt like the universe was playing some kind of cosmic joke at her expense. I can't work here, she said. Not like this. Not knowing what you know about me. What do I know? Ethan moved closer, stopping a respectful distance away. I know you've been hurt. I know you're stronger than you give yourself credit for. I know you drove around Seattle for hours because you didn't have anywhere else to go. But none of that changes the fact that you're brilliant at your job. You don't know that. I looked at your portfolio, Maya. I read your case studies. I saw what you did with limited resources and a team that was half the size it should have been. You're exactly what this company needs. She shook her head, blinking back tears she refused to let fall. This is too complicated. It doesn't have to be. Ethan's voice was gentle now, the same tone he'd used in the hotel room when she'd been falling apart. Here's what's going to happen. Jennifer and I will discuss all the candidates. We'll make a decision based on qualifications alone. If we offer you the position, you can decide whether or not to accept it. No pressure, no strings, no obligations based on one conversation in a hotel room. And if I say no? Then you say no, and we find someone else, and you move on with your life. But Maya, he waited until she looked at him. Don't say no because you're embarrassed. Don't say no because you think you owe me something or I owe you something. Say no if this isn't the right job for you. That's the only reason that matters. Maya studied his face, looking for any hint of manipulation, any sign that this was something other than what he said it was. But all she saw was the same quiet honesty that had made her trust him in the first place. Okay, she whispered. Okay? Okay, I'll consider it, if you make an offer. Ethan smiled just slightly. Good. Now let me walk you out before Jennifer sends a search party. They left the conference room together, maintaining a professional distance that felt both necessary and absurd given what they'd shared. Jennifer was waiting by the elevator, still wearing that megawatt smile. Thank you again, Ms. Collins. It was wonderful meeting you. You too. Maya shook her hand, stepped into the elevator, and pressed the button for the lobby. The last thing she saw before the doors closed was Ethan, standing in the reception area, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. The ride down felt endless. Maya leaned against the elevator wall and tried to process what had just happened. She'd gone into that interview prepared to dazzle them with her experience and expertise. Instead, She'd spent an hour trying not to think about the fact that the CEO had seen her at her absolute worst. The lobby was busy when she emerged. People in suits rushing past, delivery drivers with packages, the hum of a successful business in motion. Maya walked out into the Seattle drizzle and stood on the sidewalk, letting the rain cool her flushed face. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You did great in there." E. Maya stared at it for a long moment. Then she typed back, "How did you get my number?" "It was on your interview application." "I'm sorry if that's overstepping." She should have been angry, should have felt violated somehow. Instead, she just felt tired. "It's fine. Thank you for what you said." In the conference room, I meant every word. Maya put her phone away and started walking. She had no destination in mind, just needed to move, needed to think. She walked past coffee shops and bookstores, past the restaurant where Daniel had made promises he couldn't keep, past all the landmarks of her old life. Her phone rang as she was crossing Pike Street. Jennifer Park's name appeared on the screen. Maya's heart jumped into her throat. It had been less than an hour since her interview. There was no way they'd made a decision already. She answered. "Hello? Miss Collins, I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." "No, I'm available." "Wonderful. I wanted to reach out quickly because, frankly, we were all very impressed with your interview today. Would you be available to come back tomorrow for a second round? We'd like you to meet some of the team you'd be working with." Tomorrow. They wanted her back tomorrow. "Yes," Maya heard herself say. "Tomorrow works." "Excellent. How does 2 o'clock sound?" "Perfect." "Great. I'll send you an email with details and the names of who you'll be meeting. See you tomorrow, Ms. Collins." Maya hung up and stood in the middle of the sidewalk, letting foot traffic flow around her. A second interview. They were seriously considering her. She should have been elated. This was the opportunity she'd been working toward for years. Instead, she felt vaguely nauseated. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Ethan. "Jennifer just told me. Congratulations. Is this weird?" "This feels weird. It's only weird if we make it weird. You saw me crying on a hotel room floor. And you saw me at my most honest. I'd say that makes us even." Maya smiled despite herself. Then she typed, "I'll see you tomorrow. Looking forward to it." She walked back to her car in the rain, her mind spinning with possibilities and complications. When she got home, her apartment felt different somehow, less like a crime scene, more like a blank canvas. Maya spent the rest of the day preparing for her second interview, researching the team members she'd be meeting, reviewing PMS's recent campaigns. She worked until her eyes burned and her brain felt full, until she'd memorized every detail of their client list and brand positioning. Around 8, she ordered Thai food and ate it sitting on her couch, scrolling through her phone. There were new messages from Daniel, increasingly desperate, increasingly angry. She deleted them all without reading past the first few words. Then she opened her recent call log and stared at the unknown number. Ethan. She could call him right now, could ask him all the questions spinning through her head, could try to understand what was happening between them, if anything was happening at all. Instead, she saved his number under a simple E and put her phone down. Wednesday arrived gray and drizzly, typical Seattle weather that matched Maya's mood. She dressed even more carefully than she had for the first interview. Navy dress, matching blazer, heels that made her 3 inches taller and infinitely more confident. The receptionist recognized her this time, waving her toward the elevators with a friendly smile. "They're expecting you on 23 again." Maya rode up alone, watching the numbers climb, trying to steady her breathing. The doors opened to reveal Jennifer Park waiting for her, but this time she wasn't alone. 3 other people stood with her, 2 women and a man, all around Maya's age, all looking friendly and curious. "Ms. Collins, welcome back. Let me introduce you to part of the team." Jennifer gestured to each person in turn. "This is Sarah Chen, our creative director, Marcus Thompson, senior account manager, and Amanda Rodriguez, who leads our digital strategy team." Maya shook hands with each of them, noting the genuine warmth in their greetings. These weren't people going through the motions, they actually seemed interested in meeting her. "We thought it would be helpful for you to meet some of the people you'd be working closely with," Jennifer explained. "And we've set up a working session rather than a formal interview. We'd like to see how you think on your feet." They led her to a different conference room, this one set up with a large screen and sticky notes covering one wall. Maya recognized the setup immediately, a collaborative brainstorming session. "We have a new client coming on board next month," Sarah explained, pulling up a presentation. "They're a sustainable fashion brand trying to break into the Pacific Northwest market. Young company, limited budget, big ambitions. We thought we'd walk through the challenge together and see how you'd approach it." Maya felt something in her chest relax. This she could do. This was her element. "What's their current market position?" she asked, moving closer to the screen. For the next 2 hours, Maya worked with the team, throwing out ideas, building on their suggestions, sketching out campaign frameworks on the whiteboard. It felt natural, organic, like she'd been working with these people for years rather than minutes. Sarah was brilliant with visual concepts. Marcus understood client psychology better than anyone Maya had met. Amanda could take any idea and figure out how to make it work digitally, and Maya found herself fitting seamlessly into the gaps, connecting their ideas, finding the narrative thread that would tie everything together. "What if we focused on the story of the clothes themselves?" Maya suggested, circling a concept they'd been developing. Not just sustainable fashion, but the actual journey, where the materials come from, who makes them, why it matters. We make the consumer part of that story. "I love that," Amanda said immediately. "We could do a whole digital series, behind-the-scenes content, interviews with artisans, and tie it to local Seattle values," Marcus added. "Sustainability, conscious consumption, supporting ethical businesses." They built on the concept together, each person adding layers until they had something that felt real and compelling and achievable within the client's budget. Maya was so absorbed in the work that she didn't notice Ethan slip into the room until she turned to grab a marker and found him standing by the door, watching. Their eyes met across the conference room. He smiled, just slightly, and nodded toward the whiteboard covered in their work. "Don't let me interrupt," he said. "I just wanted to see how things were going." "We're building something great," Jennifer said, and there was excitement in her voice. "Maya's been incredible." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. The team made it easy. Everyone's ideas just clicked. "That's what we look for here," Ethan said, moving into the room. "Not people who can work alone, but people who make everyone around them better." His eyes were still on Maya. That's the real mark of a leader. The session wrapped up 20 minutes later. Jennifer walked Maya to the elevator, chatting about next steps and timelines. But Maya was only half listening. She was too aware of Ethan somewhere behind her, too conscious of the weight of his attention. "We'll be making a decision by Friday," Jennifer was saying. "But between you and me, Maya, you're our top choice. I just need to make it official with Mr. Walker." The elevator arrived. Maya stepped inside, turned to face Jennifer, and found Ethan standing there too. "I'll ride down with you," he said to Maya. "I have a meeting downtown." Jennifer smiled, oblivious, and waved as the doors closed. Silence fell between them. Maya stared straight ahead, watching the floor numbers descend. "You were brilliant up there," Ethan said quietly. "Thank you." "I meant what I said, about making people better. I watched you work with that team, and you brought out the best in all of them." Maya finally looked at him. "Is this appropriate? You talking to me like this?" "Probably not." He smiled ruefully. "But I'm finding it very hard to maintain professional distance when I keep being impressed by you." "Ethan, I know this is complicated, but I need you to hear something." He stepped closer, lowering his voice even though they were alone. "When we make you the offer, and we will, it won't be because of what happened Saturday. It'll be despite it. Because you're that good, Maya. Good enough that I'm willing to make things awkward to have you on this team." The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened onto the busy atrium, onto the real world where they had to be CEO and candidate instead of two people who'd somehow found each other in the wreckage. "I'll think about it," Maya said. "When you make the offer, I'll really think about it. That's all I'm asking." She walked away without looking back, but she could feel his eyes on her until she pushed through the revolving doors and out into the rain. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past few days. The betrayal, the hotel, the interview. The way Ethan had looked at her across the conference table like he saw something in her she'd forgotten existed. Her phone lit up on the nightstand. 3 a.m. She reached for it, expecting nothing, and found a text from E. Can't sleep either? Maya's heart skipped. She shouldn't respond. This was already too complicated. But her fingers were typing before her brain could stop them. Too much going on in my head. Want to talk about it? Isn't that what got us into this mess? Fair point, but I'm a good listener. Maya smiled in the darkness. Then she did something reckless. She hit the call button. He answered on the first ring. Hey. Hey. Maya pulled the blanket up to her chin. This is probably a terrible idea. Definitely a terrible idea. She could hear the smile in his voice. Want to hang up? No. They talked until the sky started turning gray outside her window. Not about the job or the interview or anything that mattered professionally, just about everything else. About his daughter, who was 5 and obsessed with dinosaurs. About Maya's mother, who called every Sunday and had opinions about everything. About movies they loved and books they'd read and the strange comfort of finding someone who understood. When they finally said goodbye, the sun was rising over the Olympics, and Maya felt something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. Friday morning arrived with the kind of anxious anticipation that made Maya's coffee taste like battery acid. She'd been awake since 5, had already gone through 2 outfit changes, and was now staring at her phone like it might spontaneously combust. Jennifer had said they'd have a decision by end of day Friday. It was currently 8:37 in the morning, which meant Maya had at least 8 more hours of this particular torture. Her phone buzzed. Not a call, just a text from her mother. Lunch today? I haven't seen you since last weekend and you've been dodging my calls. Maya winced. She'd been avoiding her mother's calls because she wasn't ready to explain about Daniel, about Rebecca, about the complete implosion of her personal life. Her mother had loved Daniel, had been dropping hints about grandchildren for the past year. Can't today. Waiting on something work-related. Rain check? You've said that 3 times this week. What's going on? Maya sighed and typed out a longer response. Daniel and I broke up. I'm fine, but I need a few more days before I'm ready to talk about it. I promise I'll call you this weekend. The response came almost immediately. I'm coming over tonight. I'll bring wine and Thai food. No arguments. Despite everything, Maya smiled. Her mother's solution to every crisis was wine and takeout and the kind of fierce maternal love that didn't require explanations. Okay, but I mean it about this weekend. I have something I need to focus on today. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know yet. That's the problem. Maya set her phone down and tried to focus on work, actual work, the job she still technically had at her current company. But concentration was impossible when every nerve in her body was waiting for a call that might change everything. By noon, she'd accomplished nothing except reorganizing her desk 3 times and drinking enough coffee to fuel a small aircraft. Her coworker Lisa kept shooting her concerned looks across their shared workspace. You okay? You seem jumpy. Waiting on something, Maya said vaguely. Job interview? Maya's head snapped up. Why would you think that? Lisa laughed. Because you've been dressed like you're going to court all week, and you keep checking your phone like it owes you money. It's fine, Maya. Everyone knows this place is a stepping stone. Where'd you interview? Pacific Marketing Solutions? Lisa's eyebrows shot up. PMS? That's huge. When did you interview? Tuesday and Wednesday. 2 interviews in 2 days? Lisa whistled low. They must really want you. Have you heard anything? Not yet. They said by end of day today. Well, if they offer, you should take it. This place is fine, but PMS is the big leagues. Lisa hesitated, then added, For what it's worth, I think you'd be amazing there. You're wasted here. Maya felt an unexpected surge of gratitude. Thanks, Lisa. That means a lot. 1 o'clock came and went, then 2, then 3. Maya was seriously considering whether it would be inappropriate to just call Jennifer and ask when her phone finally rang at 3:47. Unknown number, but she knew who it was before she answered. Maya Collins. Ms. Collins, it's Jennifer Park from Pacific Marketing Solutions. Maya's heart stopped, restarted, tried to climb out of her chest. Hi, Jennifer. I wanted to reach out personally to tell you that we'd like to extend an offer for the Senior Marketing Director position. We were unanimously impressed with both your interviews and the work session on Wednesday. The world tilted. Maya gripped the edge of her desk, trying to remember how to breathe. That's wonderful, thank you. I'm emailing you the formal offer letter right now. It includes salary, benefits, start date, everything we discussed. I'd love to have your answer by Monday if possible, but I understand if you need time to consider. Monday works, Maya managed. And Jennifer, thank you. Really. We're thrilled to have you, Maya, pending your acceptance, of course. I'll let you review the offer, and please don't hesitate to call if you have any questions. They hung up. Maya sat frozen at her desk, staring at nothing, while her email pinged with the incoming offer letter. Well? Lisa was practically bouncing in her chair. Don't keep me in suspense. They offered me the position. Lisa let out a whoop that turned every head in the office. I knew it! Oh my God, congratulations! When do you start? I haven't accepted yet. Are you insane? Of course you're accepting. Maya pulled up the email, scanned through the offer letter with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The salary was 30% more than she was making now. The benefits were exceptional. The start date was 3 weeks out, which gave her time to give proper notice. Everything about it was perfect, except for the fact that the CEO had seen her at her absolute lowest, and she'd spent 3 a.m. on the phone with him talking about everything and nothing while the sun came up. Maya closed her laptop and grabbed her bag. I need to go. Where are you going? It's only 4. I need to think. She drove to Discovery Park without consciously deciding to, parked near the lighthouse, and walked out to the bluff overlooking Puget Sound. The wind was cold and sharp, carrying the smell of salt water and pine trees. Maya pulled out her phone and looked at the offer letter again. Then she scrolled through her recent messages until she found the conversation with E. She could text him, could ask him if this was really okay, if working together wouldn't make everything impossibly complicated. But she already knew what he'd say. He'd tell her the offer was legitimate, that she'd earned it, that she should make the decision based on what was best for her career. The problem was, Maya didn't trust her own judgment anymore. A week ago, she'd thought she knew her boyfriend, her best friend, her entire life. She'd been catastrophically wrong. Her phone rang. Unknown number again, but a different one this time. Hello? Maya, it's Ethan. Her breath caught. How did you know I'd... Jennifer told me she called you. I wanted to reach out separately, not as your potential boss, just as someone who cares about what you decide. Ethan, I don't... Can you meet me? Not at the office. Somewhere neutral. I think we need to actually talk about this. Maya looked out at the water, at the ferries cutting through gray waves. Where? There's a coffee shop on Alki Beach, the one with the red awning. Can you be there in 30 minutes? Yes. Good. I'll see you there. The drive to Alki took 40 minutes because of traffic, but Ethan was waiting when Maya pulled into the parking lot. He was sitting at an outdoor table despite the wind, wearing jeans and a jacket that made him look younger, less like a CEO and more like the man who'd wandered into her hotel room by mistake. Maya sat down across from him, wrapping her coat tighter against the cold. Thank you for coming, Ethan said. You said we needed to talk. We do. He leaned back in his chair, studying her face. You're going to turn down the offer, aren't you? Maya blinked. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I can see it in your face. You're scared. Of course I'm scared. This whole situation is insane, Ethan. You know things about me that no one at that company should know. We talked until sunrise yesterday. That's not professional. That's not appropriate. That's two people who connected during a difficult moment, Ethan finished quietly. And yes, the timing is terrible. Yes, the circumstances are complicated. But Maya, you can't turn down an opportunity that's perfect for you just because you're afraid of what might happen. You don't know it's perfect for me. Don't I? He leaned forward now, his dark eyes intense. I watched you with that team on Wednesday. I saw the way you lit up when you were working through that campaign. I saw the way everyone responded to you, how they brought their best ideas to the table because you made them feel heard. That's exactly what we need. That's exactly who you are when you're not second-guessing yourself. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. What if I mess this up? What if I can't separate what happened Saturday from what happens at work? What if everyone finds out and thinks I slept my way into the position? Did you sleep with me? What? No. Then there's nothing for anyone to find out. Ethan reached across the table, stopped just short of touching her hand. Maya, listen to me. What happened in that hotel room stays between us. No one else needs to know. And what happens at PMS is completely separate. You're not getting this job because of me. You're getting it despite me, because you're that damn good. You keep saying that. Because it's true. His voice softened. I know you've been hurt. I know trusting people feels impossible right now, but you can trust this. You earned this opportunity on your own merit. Maya wiped at her eyes, frustrated with herself for crying. Again. It seemed like all she did lately was cry or fight back tears. What about us? She asked quietly. If I take this job, what happens with this? She gestured between them, unable to name what this even was. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, I don't know. I know that I can't stop thinking about you. I know that talking to you at 3 in the morning felt more real than anything I've experienced in 4 years. But I also know that if you work for me, there are lines we can't cross. Professional boundaries that matter. So we just pretend nothing happened? No. We acknowledge that something did happen, and we handle it like adults. He finally closed the distance, his fingers brushing against hers on the table. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. This is complicated. But I'd rather navigate complicated with you than wonder what might have been if you'd turned down this job out of fear. Maya looked down at their hands, his fingers barely touching hers. It wasn't intimate exactly, but it felt like a promise of something. I need to think about it, she said. I know. Ethan pulled his hand back, creating distance again. Take the weekend. Make the decision that's right for you. And Maya, whatever you decide, I respect it. They sat there for a few more minutes, drinking coffee that went cold in the wind, watching joggers pass by on the beach path. It felt suspended somehow, like they existed outside of normal time and space. Eventually, Ethan stood. I should go. I have to pick up my daughter from school. What's her name? Maya asked suddenly. You've mentioned her, but you never said her name. Something softened in Ethan's expression. Sophie. She's 5, obsessed with dinosaurs. And she thinks the word no is just a suggestion. Maya smiled. She sounds amazing. She is. He hesitated, then added, maybe you'll meet her someday. If you take the job, we do a company picnic every summer. Family's welcome. Are you trying to sweeten the deal? Maybe. He grinned. Is it working? I'll let you know Monday. Ethan left, and Maya sat alone at the table for another hour, watching the sun sink toward the Olympics. Her phone buzzed periodically. Her mother confirming dinner, Lisa asking if she'd made a decision, a handful of emails about projects at her current job, and one text from E. Whatever you decide, thank you for giving it real consideration. That's all I can ask. Maya drove home in the gathering dusk, her mind still spinning. When she pulled into her parking lot, her mother's car was already there, despite the fact that they'd agreed on 7 and it was only 6:15. You're early, Maya said as her mother climbed out of her car, arms full of takeout bags. I was worried. Her mother, Patricia Collins, was a force of nature packed into a 5'4" frame. She had Maya's eyes and her late father's stubbornness, and right now she was looking at her daughter like she could see straight through to her soul. You sounded strange on the phone. They went inside, and Patricia immediately started unpacking food while Maya got wine glasses down from the cabinet. For a few minutes, they moved around each other in comfortable silence, the way they had for years. Finally, settled on the couch with pad thai and Pinot Grigio, Patricia spoke. So, Daniel. Maya took a long drink of wine. He cheated on me, with Rebecca. Her mother's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: shock, fury, disgust, and finally a kind of grim resignation. I never liked her. You never said anything. Because you loved her, and I thought maybe I was wrong. Patricia set down her wine glass. I'm sorry, sweetheart. That's a special kind of betrayal. I found them in our bed. Maya was surprised at how calm her voice sounded. I'd gone to get coffee. I came back early. Oh, honey. It's been a week. I've moved on. Even as she said it, Maya knew it wasn't quite true. She'd survived a week. That wasn't the same as moving on. Have you? Her mother studied her face. Because you look like someone who's been holding herself together with sheer force of will. Maya felt the facade crack just slightly. I got a job offer. That's wonderful. Where? Pacific Marketing Solutions. It's a senior director position. Big step up from where I am now. Patricia's face lit up. Maya, that's incredible. When do you start? I haven't accepted yet. The light dimmed. Why not? And because she'd never been able to lie to her mother, not really, Maya told her everything. About the hotel room, about Ethan, about the mistaken encounter that had somehow led to 2 interviews and a job offer and phone calls at 3 in the morning. Patricia listened without interrupting, her expression cycling through surprise, concern, and something that might have been understanding. So let me make sure I have this straight, she said when Maya finished. You made an impulsive decision after discovering your boyfriend's betrayal. A stranger accidentally ended up in your hotel room and listened to you without judgment. That same stranger turned out to be the CEO of a company where you'd already applied for a job. They interviewed you based on your qualifications and offered you a position that you absolutely deserve. And now you're thinking about turning it down because the situation feels complicated. When you put it that way, it sounds stupid. It doesn't sound stupid. It sounds like you're protecting yourself. Patricia reached over and took Maya's hand. But honey, you can't let Daniel and Rebecca steal this opportunity from you too. They already took your trust. Don't let them take your career. It's not about them. It's about Ethan, about what might happen if I work for him. What do you want to happen? Maya pulled her hand back, frustrated. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. A week ago, I thought I knew exactly what my life looked like. Now, everything's different. Different isn't always bad. It feels bad. It feels scary and uncertain and completely out of control. That's because it is out of control. Patricia's voice was gentle but firm. Life is messy and complicated and full of coincidences that don't make sense. But you don't turn down opportunities just because they're complicated. You take them and figure it out as you go. They ate in silence for a while. Maya's pad thai tasted like sawdust, but she forced herself to swallow anyway. Her mother was right, she knew that. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally were 2 very different things. Can I ask you something? Patricia said eventually. Sure. Do you like him? This Ethan? Maya's first instinct was to deny it, to insist it wasn't like that. But lying to her mother had never worked, and she was too tired to try. I think I could, she admitted quietly. That's what scares me. I barely know him. But when we talk, it feels like I've known him forever. And that shouldn't be possible after one conversation in a hotel room and some text messages. Why not? Because that's not how real life works. Patricia laughed. Says who? Honey, I met your father at a bus stop. We talked for 20 minutes while waiting for different buses, and I knew. Just knew. Sometimes connection happens fast. And sometimes it crashes and burns. Sometimes, Patricia agreed, but you'll never know which unless you're brave enough to try. They finished dinner, and Patricia helped Maya clean up before heading home with promises to call over the weekend. Maya stood in her doorway watching her mother's taillights disappear, feeling slightly steadier than she had before. She went back inside, poured another glass of wine, and opened her laptop. The offer letter was still there, waiting. Maya read through it again, this time really paying attention to the details. The position was everything she'd been working toward. The team was talented and collaborative. The company culture, from what she'd seen, actually lived up to its stated values. And yes, the CEO was someone she'd developed an unexpected connection with, but that didn't negate everything else. Maya pulled up a blank document and started making a list. Pros and cons, the way she'd been taught to evaluate important decisions. Under pros, career advancement, better salary, talented team, meaningful work, company culture, growth potential. Under cons, complicated history with CEO, fear of judgment, uncertainty about professional boundaries. She stared at the list for a long time. The pros outweighed the cons by any objective measure, but the cons carried emotional weight that couldn't be quantified. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lisa. Have you decided yet? The The suspense is killing me. Maya smiled and typed back. Still thinking. I'll let you know Monday. You're going to say yes, though, right? Please tell me you're saying yes. I'm leaning that way. Good. Because turning down an opportunity like this would be insane. Maya set her phone down and looked at her list again. Then she opened a new email and started typing. Dear Jennifer, thank you for the generous offer to join Pacific Marketing Solutions as Senior Marketing Director. I'm incredibly excited about the opportunity to work with such a talented team on meaningful campaigns. She stopped, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. This was it. The moment where she either moved forward or stayed stuck. Maya took a breath and kept typing. I'm writing to formally accept the position. I understand the start date is 3 weeks from Monday, which gives me appropriate time to give notice at my current company. I'm looking forward to joining the team and contributing to PMS's continued success. Please let me know what paperwork you need from me and what the onboarding process looks like. Best regards, Maya Collins. She read it over 3 times, checking for typos, for any hint of hesitation. Then before she could second-guess herself, she hit send. The email whooshed away into the digital void. Maya closed her laptop and sat back against the couch, her heart pounding. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. Her phone rang almost immediately. Maya jumped, then laughed at herself when she saw Jennifer's name on the screen. Hi, Jennifer. Maya, I just saw your email. I'm so thrilled you're accepting. This is wonderful news. Thank you for the opportunity. We're lucky to have you. I'll send over the new hire paperwork first thing Monday morning, and we'll set up an onboarding schedule. But for tonight, just celebrate. You've earned this. They hung up, and Maya sat in her quiet apartment feeling something she hadn't felt in a week. Not quite happiness, it was too soon for that, but maybe the first fragile stirrings of hope. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Jennifer just told me, "Welcome to the team." Maya smiled and typed back, "Thank you for everything, for listening that night, for the interview opportunity, for giving me space to make this decision. You made the right choice." "I hope so. I know so." "See you in 3 weeks, Ms. Collins. See you in 3 weeks, Mr. Walker." Maya set her phone down and walked to the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline lit up against the night sky. Somewhere out there was Daniel, probably still texting her apologies she wouldn't read. Somewhere out there was Rebecca, living with whatever guilt she felt or didn't feel. And somewhere out there was Ethan, picking up his daughter from school, making dinner, living a life that had intersected with Maya's in the strangest, most unexpected way. 3 weeks. That's how long she had to finish projects at her current job, to pack up her desk, to prepare for the next chapter. 3 weeks to get her head straight about boundaries and professional behavior and how to work for someone who'd seen her fall apart. Maya finished her wine and went to bed early, exhausted by the emotional whiplash of the past week. But for the first time since she'd walked in on Daniel and Rebecca, she fell asleep without crying. The weekend passed in a blur of practical tasks. Maya gave notice at her current company on Monday morning, enduring her boss's disappointment and Lisa's tearful congratulations. She started the paperwork for PMS, filling out forms and tax documents and emergency contact information. She also blocked Daniel's number, not out of anger anymore. That had faded into something closer to indifference, just because she was done carrying the weight of his guilt and his desperate need for forgiveness. Rebecca tried calling twice. Maya let both calls go to voicemail, then deleted the messages without listening. Some bridges, once burned, weren't worth rebuilding. On Wednesday afternoon, Maya's phone rang with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello? Ms. Collins, this is Sarah Chen from PMS. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." "Not at all. Is everything okay?" "Everything's great. I just wanted to reach out personally to say how excited we all are that you're joining the team. The energy you brought to the brainstorming session last week was exactly what we need." Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you, Sarah. That means a lot. I also wanted to give you a heads up. We have a campaign kickoff meeting your first day. The sustainable fashion client I mentioned, they signed on, and Mr. Walker wants you leading the account." Maya's stomach flipped. "He wants me leading it?" "He said you had the vision for it, so you should be the one to execute it. Is that okay? I know it's a lot to throw at you right away." "No, it's perfect. I'm honored." "Great. I'll send you the client brief later this week so you can review it before you start. And Maya, I'm really glad you're coming aboard. They hung up, and Maya sat staring at her phone in wonder. Ethan was giving her a major campaign on day one. That was either a massive vote of confidence or a test to see if she could handle the pressure. Maybe it was both. The final 2 weeks of her notice period crawled by with agonizing slowness. Maya wrapped up projects, transitioned her accounts, said goodbye to colleagues she'd worked with for years. Lisa threw her a goodbye lunch that was more emotional than Maya had expected. "Promise you'll keep in touch," Lisa said, hugging her fiercely. "And when you're famous and running some massive campaign, remember the little people." "I promise," Maya said, meaning it. On her last day, Maya packed up her desk and carried her box of personal items to her car. She sat in the parking lot for a moment, looking up at the building where she'd spent 3 years of her life. It had been fine, safe, comfortable, but she was ready for more than fine. Maya drove home, unpacked her box, and laid out her outfit for Monday. First day at Pacific Marketing Solutions. First day working for Ethan Walker. First day of whatever came next. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt ready. Her phone buzzed with a text from E. "Big day on Monday. You ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be. You're going to be amazing. I have complete faith in you, even though you've only known me for 3 weeks, especially because I've only known you for 3 weeks. I've seen you at your worst and watched you turn it into your best." That's rare, Maya. She didn't know how to respond to that, so she just sent back a simple heart emoji. Then immediately regretted it, because hearts felt too intimate, too suggestive of things that couldn't happen between a CEO and his employee. But Ethan just sent back a smiley face, and Maya relaxed. Sunday night, she barely slept. Monday morning arrived with bright sunshine that felt like a good omen. Maya dressed in her power suit, the one she'd worn to her first interview, and drove to downtown Seattle with butterflies swarming in her stomach. The PMS building looked different now, not intimidating, but welcoming. Maya parked, walked through the lobby, and rode the elevator to the 23rd floor with her head held high. Jennifer was waiting when the doors opened, along with Sarah, Marcus, and Amanda. "Welcome to your first day," Jennifer said warmly. "We're so excited to have you here." They led her through the office, introducing her to people whose names Maya knew she'd forget and have to relearn. Everyone was friendly, curious, genuinely welcoming. No one looked at her strangely or seemed to know about the hotel room or any of it. Maybe Ethan had been right. Maybe the past could stay in the past. "Mr. Walker wanted to see you before the campaign meeting," Jennifer said, stopping outside a closed office door. "Just to welcome you officially." Maya's heart rate kicked up several notches. "Okay." Jennifer knocked, then opened the door without waiting for a response. "Maya's here for you, Mr. Walker." "Perfect. Send her in." Maya stepped into Ethan's office, and the door closed behind her, leaving them alone for the first time since Alki Beach. He stood from behind his desk, and Maya was struck again by how different he looked in professional mode. Suit perfectly tailored, tie precisely knotted, every inch the successful CEO. But his eyes were the same, warm, knowing, kind. "Maya, welcome to PMS." "Thank you, Mr. Walker." His mouth quirked. "We should probably keep it professional in the office, but when it's just us, I'm still just Ethan." "Is it going to be just us very often?" "I hope not," he said honestly, "for both our sakes. But I wanted 1 minute alone to tell you something." He came around the desk, maintaining careful distance between them. "What you do here starts now. Clean slate. No history, no complications, just the work. You've earned this position, and I'm going to expect excellence from you. I'm not going to go easy on you because of what we shared. If anything, I'm going to push you harder. I wouldn't want it any other way." "Good." He smiled then, just slightly. "But I also want you to know, if you ever need anything, if this ever becomes too much or too complicated, my door is open, not as your boss, as your friend." Friend. It was the first time either of them had used that word, and it felt both too small and exactly right. "Thank you," Maya said softly, "for giving me this chance. Thank you for taking it." They stood there for a moment longer, and Maya felt the weight of everything unspoken between them. Then Ethan glanced at his watch and stepped back. The campaign meeting starts in 10 minutes. Sarah will walk you through the client brief. I'll be there, but this is your show. Impress me. Maya grinned. Is that a challenge? Consider it your first official assignment. She left his office feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The past 3 weeks had been a hurricane of change and uncertainty and fear. But standing here now, in this building with these people and this opportunity ahead of her, Maya felt something click into place. This was right. Whatever happened next, whatever complications arose, this decision had been right. The campaign meeting was everything Maya hoped it would be. She presented her vision for the sustainable fashion client, building on the concepts they'd developed during her interview. The team responded enthusiastically, throwing out ideas and refinements and possibilities. And Ethan sat at the head of the table, listening, occasionally asking questions that pushed Maya to think deeper. He treated her exactly like he treated everyone else, with high expectations and genuine respect. When the meeting ended, Sarah pulled Maya aside. That was brilliant. I think this campaign is going to be something special. We're going to make it special, Maya corrected. This is a team effort. Sarah smiled. You're going to fit in great here. Maya hoped she was right. She went to her new office, smaller than Ethan's but with a window view and enough space to feel important, and started settling in. She was hanging up her coat when her phone buzzed. A text from E. Told you you'd be amazing. Maya smiled and didn't respond. Some things didn't need words. She sat down at her desk, opened her laptop, and got to work on the life she was building. One decision, one campaign, one day at a time. And if her eyes occasionally drifted to the CEO's office down the hall, if she sometimes wondered about phone calls at 3 a.m. and conversations that felt too deep for strangers, well, that was something she'd figure out later. For now, she had a job to do. And Maya Collins had never been one to do anything halfway. The first month at Pacific Marketing Solutions passed in a blur of client meetings, strategy sessions, and late nights at the office. Maya threw herself into work with the kind of focused intensity that left little room for anything else, which was exactly what she needed. The sustainable fashion campaign was gaining momentum. Maya had secured partnerships with 3 local artisans, lined up a series of video shoots in the San Juan Islands, and developed a social media strategy that had the client calling twice a week to express their excitement. Sarah's creative concepts were stunning. Marcus had negotiated terms that kept them under budget, and Amanda's digital rollout plan was flawless. It was the kind of collaborative success that reminded Maya why she'd chosen this career in the first place. What surprised her most was how seamlessly she and Ethan had fallen into a professional rhythm. In meetings, he was her boss, demanding, insightful, and uncompromising about quality. He pushed her to refine her ideas, questioned her assumptions, and never let her take the easy path. But he also defended her decisions to clients, backed her up when she needed support, and made it clear to everyone that she had his full confidence. Outside of meetings, they were colleagues who occasionally grabbed coffee in the break room and exchanged brief updates in the hallway. Professional, appropriate, exactly what it needed to be. Except for the text messages. They'd started innocently enough. Ethan sending her articles about marketing trends, Maya forwarding him podcast recommendations. But somewhere around week 2, the messages had shifted into something more personal. Not inappropriate exactly, just friends checking in. How's the campaign deck coming? He'd text at 9 p.m. Almost done. How's bedtime going with Sophie? She's currently negotiating for 3 more stories. I'm weak. Stay strong. Set those boundaries. Easy for you to say. You haven't seen her dinosaur pajamas. Maya would smile at her phone, type out a response, and then feel guilty for how much she looked forward to these exchanges. They weren't crossing any lines, but they were dancing dangerously close to the edge. By the end of her first month, Maya had settled into a routine. She arrived at the office by 8, worked through lunch most days, and rarely left before 6. She'd made friends with Sarah, who had impeccable taste in restaurants and a wicked sense of humor. Marcus had adopted her into his weekly coffee runs, and Amanda had started inviting her to the team's Thursday happy hours. Maya was building a life here, a good life, the kind she'd always wanted. On a Friday afternoon in early March, Jennifer stopped by Maya's office with an unusual request. Do you have plans tomorrow? Maya looked up from the budget spreadsheet she'd been reviewing. Not really. Why? The company picnic I mentioned when you interviewed? We're doing it this weekend at Seward Park. It's a whole family thing, kids, dogs, terrible barbecue, the works. You should come. Maya's stomach tightened. Family events meant Ethan would be there with Sophie. It meant crossing the line between professional colleagues and actual friends. It meant complicating things that were already complicated enough. I don't want to intrude on a family event. You're not intruding, you're part of the team now. Everyone brings someone or comes solo. Sarah's bringing her girlfriend, Marcus is bringing his kids, and Amanda usually shows up with her dog. Jennifer grinned. Come on, it'll be fun. And between you and me, the company pays for really good catering, so the barbecue comment was a lie. Maya hesitated, then nodded. Okay, what time? 11 a.m., picnic area 3. Dress casual, bring sunscreen, and prepare for highly competitive volleyball. After Jennifer left, Maya sat staring at her computer screen without really seeing it. A picnic. With Ethan and his daughter. The daughter he talked about constantly, but Maya had never met. This was fine. This was a normal work event. People brought their families to these things all the time. Her phone buzzed. A text from E. I heard Jennifer recruited you for tomorrow. Fair warning. Sophie takes dodgeball very seriously. Maya smiled despite her nerves. Should I be afraid? Terrified. She has no mercy. Good thing I played softball in college. Oh, really? This just got interesting. Maya put her phone away and tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting to tomorrow. What did you wear to a company picnic? What did you say to your boss's 5-year-old daughter? How did you maintain professional boundaries while throwing a frisbee? She was still overthinking it when she left the office that evening. The Seattle twilight was soft and golden, and Maya decided to walk the few blocks to her car instead of taking the elevator to the parking garage. She needed the air, needed to clear her head. She was halfway down the block when she heard her name. Maya? She turned, and her heart sank. Daniel was standing on the sidewalk behind her, looking thinner than she remembered, with shadows under his eyes that suggested he hadn't been sleeping well. What are you doing here? Maya asked, her voice colder than she intended. I've been trying to reach you. You blocked my number. Yes, I did that on purpose. Daniel flinched. Can we please just talk? 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Maya looked at him, really looked, and felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no lingering affection, just a vague sense of pity for the man who'd thrown away 5 years for something that apparently hadn't even lasted a month. Rebecca dumped you, didn't she? Maya said. Daniel's face crumpled. How did you? Because you look like I felt 6 weeks ago, and you wouldn't be here if you had somewhere else to go. Maya shifted her bag on her shoulder. I'm sorry she hurt you, Daniel. I really am, but that doesn't mean we need to talk. I made a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. He took a step toward her. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm asking anyway. I love you, Maya. I never stopped loving you. You cheated on me with my best friend in our bed. Maya's voice was steady, almost gentle. That's not love, Daniel. That's betrayal. And I'm done carrying the weight of it. So that's it? 5 years and you're just walking away? You walked away the moment you decided she was worth more than our relationship. Maya turned to go, then stopped. For what it's worth, I hope you figure out whatever made you think that was okay. But you're going to have to do it without me. She walked away without looking back, and this time Daniel didn't follow. Maya's hands were shaking by the time she reached her car, but it was adrenaline, not pain. She'd faced him down, said what needed to be said, and walked away with her dignity intact. The girl who'd shattered coffee cups on the floor 6 weeks ago wouldn't have been able to do that. She drove home feeling lighter, freer, like she'd finally closed a chapter that had been hanging open too long. When she got to her apartment, she texted her mother, "Saw Daniel today, told him we were done." "I'm okay." The response came immediately. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart." That took courage. It took 6 weeks of therapy and a lot of wine. Whatever works. Love you. Love you too. Maya ordered Thai food, took a long bath, and went to bed early. Tomorrow was the picnic, and she wanted to be rested for whatever complicated feelings it might bring. Saturday dawned clear and warm, one of those perfect Seattle spring days that felt like a gift. Maya changed outfits 3 times before settling on jeans and a light blue sweater that was casual but still put together. She pulled her hair into a ponytail, applied minimal makeup, and stared at herself in the mirror. "It's just a picnic," she told her reflection. "Stop being weird about it." Her reflection didn't look convinced. Seward Park was already busy when Maya arrived at 11:15. She could see the PMS group clustered around picnic area 3, colorful blankets spread on the grass, a volleyball net being assembled, kids running in chaotic circles. Maya grabbed the fruit salad she'd made that morning and headed toward the group, her heart beating faster with every step. Sarah spotted her first. "Maya, you made it!" She was standing with a woman Maya recognized from photos on her desk, tall, with short dark hair and an easy smile. "This is my girlfriend, Rachel. Rachel, this is Maya, the marketing genius I've been telling you about." "Please," Maya laughed, shaking Rachel's hand. "Sarah's being generous." "She really isn't," Rachel said warmly. "She's been raving about your campaign work. Something about artisan videos and authentic storytelling." They chatted for a few minutes before Marcus appeared with his 2 kids, a boy around 7 and a girl around 9, both with their father's bright smile. Amanda was there with her golden retriever, who immediately tried to steal someone's sandwich. It was chaotic and loud and genuinely fun, and Maya felt herself relaxing into it. Then she heard a child's voice, high and excited. "Daddy, can I go play on the swings?" Maya turned and saw Ethan walking toward the group with the little girl's hand in his. Sophie Walker was exactly as Maya had imagined. Dark hair like her father's, pulled into pigtails, wearing overalls covered in dinosaur patches, and light-up sneakers that flashed with every step. Ethan's eyes found Maya's across the crowd, and something passed between them, an acknowledgement, a shared awareness that this was the moment where professional and personal finally, inevitably, intersected. 5 minutes on the swings, Ethan told Sophie, then come back for lunch. 10 minutes? 7. Deal! Sophie took off running toward the playground, her light-up shoes leaving a trail of pink flashes. Ethan made his way over to Maya, carrying a cooler in one hand and a blanket under his arm. In jeans and a gray Henley with his hair slightly ruffled by the breeze, he looked nothing like the CEO who commanded boardrooms. He looked like a dad at a park, and something about that made Maya's chest ache. "You came," he said, setting down the cooler. Jennifer made a compelling case about the catering. "Smart woman." He spread the blanket out on the grass near where Maya was standing. "Fair warning, Sophie's been talking about this all week. She gets very intense about relay races." "So I've heard." They stood there for a moment, the comfortable ease of their text messages translating awkwardly to real life. Around them, people were laughing, kids were screaming, someone's dog was barking at a squirrel. "Daddy!" Sophie came running back, slightly breathless. "You said 7 minutes." "It's been 3. But I'm hungry now." Ethan sighed, but Maya could see the affection in it. "Sophie, this is Maya. She works with me at the office. Maya, this is my daughter Sophie." Sophie turned her full attention to Maya, studying her with the kind of unfiltered curiosity only children possess. "Do you like dinosaurs?" "I do," Maya said seriously. "Especially velociraptors." Sophie's face lit up. "Those are my favorite too. Most people say T-Rex because they're big, but velociraptors are smarter and they hunt in packs." "Exactly. Intelligence beats size every time." "I like her," Sophie announced to her father. Then to Maya, "Do you want to see my dinosaur collection? I brought some in my backpack." "Sophie, let Maya eat lunch first," Ethan said. "It's okay," Maya found herself saying. "I'd love to see your collection." Sophie grabbed Maya's hand with the unself-conscious trust of a child who'd been taught the world was safe and pulled her toward a backpack covered in stickers. For the next 15 minutes, Maya received a comprehensive education in dinosaur taxonomy, complete with demonstrations of how each dinosaur moved and sounded. Ethan watched from the blanket, unpacking sandwiches and trying not to smile too obviously. "You're really good with her," Sarah said, appearing beside him. "Sophie's easy to be good with." "I meant Maya." Sarah sat down on the edge of the blanket. "She's a natural. Has she mentioned kids of her own?" Ethan's expression shifted slightly. "We don't really talk about personal stuff." Sarah gave him a look that suggested she didn't believe that for a second. "Right. The way you two don't really look at each other across the conference table. Very professional. Sarah, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, I've worked with you for 4 years, Ethan. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at her. Sarah stood up, brushing grass off her jeans. Whatever's going on there, just be careful. For both your sakes. She walked away before Ethan could respond, leaving him sitting on the blanket watching Maya and Sophie arrange plastic dinosaurs in some elaborate battle scenario. The afternoon unfolded with the easy chaos of a company picnic. They ate lunch, and Sarah had been right about the catering. It was excellent. They played volleyball, with Maya demonstrating her college softball skills by serving 3 consecutive aces that had Sophie jumping up and down with excitement. They had a water balloon toss that ended with Amanda's dog eating several balloons, and everyone frantically Googling whether that was toxic. Through it all, Maya found herself pulled into Sophie's orbit. The little girl had apparently decided Maya was her new favorite person and insisted she be on her team for every game, sit next to her during snack time, and provide a running commentary on the superiority of velociraptors over all other dinosaurs. "Your daughter is amazing," Maya told Ethan during a brief lull while Sophie was off playing tag with Marcus's kids. "She really is." Ethan's voice was soft with the kind of love that needed no explanation. Her mother would have been so proud of who she's becoming. It was the first time he'd mentioned his late wife directly since that night in the hotel room. Maya wanted to ask more, wanted to know the story, but this didn't feel like the right moment. "She's lucky to have you," Maya said instead. "I'm lucky to have her." Ethan watched Sophie shriek with laughter as she dodged between trees. "She saved me, you know. After Lisa died, I didn't want to be in the world anymore. But Sophie needed me, so I had to figure out how to be present, how to be alive instead of just existing." Maya's throat tightened. "That takes real strength. Or desperation." He looked at her then, and his eyes held something Maya couldn't quite name. "You understand that, I think. The difference between existing and being alive." Before Maya could respond, Sophie came running back, grass-stained and gloriously messy. "Daddy, can Maya come to dinner with us, please? We're having pizza and she needs to help me explain to you why the Jurassic period is better than the Cretaceous period." Ethan looked at Maya, a question in his eyes. Every reasonable part of Maya's brain was screaming at her to say no, to maintain boundaries, to keep things professional, to not get more tangled up in Ethan Walker's life than she already was. "I'd love to," she heard herself say. Sophie cheered. Ethan smiled. And Maya realized she'd just made a decision that would change everything, again. The picnic wound down around 4. People started packing up blankets and corralling children, exchanging promises to see each other Monday. Sarah gave Maya a knowing look as she left with Rachel. Marcus's kids hugged Sophie goodbye with the intensity of best friends who'd see each other in 48 hours. Finally, it was just Maya, Ethan, and Sophie, loading the last of the supplies into Ethan's car. "Where should we go for pizza?" Ethan asked, buckling Sophie into her car seat. "Pagliacci's," Sophie announced. "They have the best pepperoni." "Pagliacci's it is." Ethan closed the door and turned to Maya. "You can follow us there, or ride with us and I'll bring you back for your car later." Maya looked at her car, then at Ethan's SUV where Sophie was already singing something about dinosaurs eating pizza. The smart choice was to follow in her own car, maintain her independence, keep an exit route available. "I'll ride with you," she said. They drove to Pagliacci's in Seward Park, with Sophie providing a continuous stream of commentary from the back seat. The restaurant was crowded with families, loud and cheerful and completely unpretentious. They grabbed a table in the back corner, ordered a large pepperoni pizza and garlic knots, and settled in. "Tell me about your favorite dinosaur," Maya said to Sophie. For the next 45 minutes, Maya got a graduate-level education in paleontology from a 5-year-old who knew more about the Mesozoic era than most adults. Ethan interjected occasionally with questions that showed he'd heard all of this before, but was still genuinely interested. Watching them together, the way Ethan listened to his daughter like her words mattered, the way Sophie looked at her father with complete trust, Maya felt something crack open in her chest. This was what love looked like. Not grand gestures or expensive gifts or passionate declarations, just presence, attention, showing up. "Maya, do you have kids?" Sophie asked suddenly, mid-bite of pizza. "No, I don't." Do you want kids? Sophie, Ethan said gently. That's a personal question. It's okay, Maya said. I think so, someday, when I find the right person to have them with. Sophie considered this seriously. Daddy says my mom was the right person, but then she got sick and died. The restaurant noise faded into the background. Maya looked at Ethan, who'd gone very still. Your dad's right, Maya said softly. Your mom was the right person for him, and I bet she was amazing. She was, Sophie said matter-of-factly. I don't remember her very much because I was really little, but Daddy has pictures and he tells me stories. She had curly hair like mine and she liked to laugh. That sounds like a wonderful person to come from. Sophie nodded, apparently satisfied with this answer, and went back to her pizza. But Ethan was looking at Maya like she'd done something extraordinary by simply acknowledging his daughter's grief without trying to fix it. After dinner, they walked Sophie to a nearby playground to burn off the last of her energy before bedtime. Maya pushed her on the swings while Ethan watched from a bench, his expression unreadable in the fading light. Higher, Sophie demanded, her legs pumping. Any higher and you'll achieve orbit. Sophie giggled. That's not scientifically possible. The atmosphere extends to about 600 kilometers, and swings can't generate enough velocity to escape Earth's gravity. Maya laughed. You're absolutely right. My apologies for the scientific inaccuracy. Eventually, Sophie's energy began to flag. She climbed off the swing and came to lean against Maya's legs, suddenly shy. I had fun today, she said quietly. Me too. Can you come to the park with us again sometime? Maya looked at Ethan, who was watching them with an expression that made her heart stutter. We'll see, she said, which was what adults said when they meant yes but weren't sure they should. The drive back to Seward Park was quieter. Sophie fell asleep in her car seat within 5 minutes, her head tilted at an angle that would definitely give her a neck ache. Ethan drove carefully, navigating the Seattle streets while Maya sat in the passenger seat, feeling like she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Thank you, Ethan said quietly, so as not to wake Sophie. For today. For being so good with her. She made it easy. She did. But you made it special. He glanced at her briefly before returning his attention to the road. She doesn't warm up to people like that often. You're the first person from work she's ever asked to see again. Maya didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. They drove in companionable silence until they reached the parking lot where Maya's car was waiting. Ethan pulled up next to it, but didn't immediately unlock the doors. Maya, I need to say something. Her heart rate kicked up several notches. Okay. Today was perfect, maybe too perfect. He turned in his seat to face her. And that scares me because I don't know how to navigate this. You work for me. There are rules, expectations, professional boundaries that matter. But I also can't stop thinking about you. About conversations at 3 a.m., about the way you understood my daughter without trying, about how different my life feels since you walked through that hotel room door. Maya couldn't breathe. Ethan, I'm not asking for anything, he continued. I just needed you to know that this is complicated for me too, that maintaining professional distance is getting harder every day, and that I don't know what to do about it. In the back seat, Sophie stirred slightly, and Ethan immediately lowered his voice even more. Maya looked at this man, this kind, damaged, brilliant man who'd listened to her fall apart and then given her an opportunity to rebuild, and felt her carefully constructed walls crumbling. I don't know what to do about it either, she admitted. But Ethan, we can't. You're my boss. I just started this job. If anyone found out, I know all of that. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. That's why I've been trying so hard to keep things professional. But then you show up at a picnic and spend the afternoon making my daughter laugh, and I realize I'm fighting a losing battle. So what do? We be smart about this. We maintain boundaries at work. We don't cross lines that could hurt your career or compromise my position. He met her eyes. And we figure out if what's between us is real or just two broken people finding comfort in each other. And how do we do that while maintaining boundaries? Ethan smiled, sad and a little helpless. I have absolutely no idea. Maya reached for the door handle, needing space to think, to breathe. I should go. Maya, wait. Ethan's hand moved toward hers, then stopped. Whatever happens, I don't want you to feel pressured. If you decide this is too complicated, if you want to keep things purely professional, I'll respect that. Your job is secure regardless. That's not what I'm worried about. Then what are you worried about? Maya looked back at him, at Sophie sleeping peacefully behind him, at the life he'd built from tragedy and love. I'm worried that I'm going to fall for you, and that it's going to complicate everything. And that I'm going to do it anyway, because apparently I don't learn from my mistakes. Falling for me would be a mistake? Falling for my boss would be a mistake. Falling for someone whose daughter already has my heart would be a mistake. Falling for someone I barely know but can't stop thinking about would be a mistake. She opened the door, stepped out into the cool evening air. But yes, Ethan, I think I'm going to make all those mistakes anyway. She closed the door before he could respond and walked to her car on unsteady legs. She didn't look back as she started the engine, didn't let herself watch him drive away with his sleeping daughter, but she felt the weight of his gaze until she turned out of the parking lot and headed toward home, toward an apartment that felt emptier than ever, toward a future that had just gotten infinitely more complicated. Maya drove through the Seattle night with tears on her cheeks and hope in her heart, and wondered when she'd become the kind of person who made decisions with her heart instead of her head. Maybe it had started in a hotel room with a stranger who listened. Maybe it had started when she'd walked into a conference room and seen kindness in a CEO's eyes. Maybe it had started today, watching a 5-year-old explain dinosaur taxonomy with the confidence of someone who knew she was loved. Or maybe it had started the moment Maya decided to stop just existing and start being alive again. She didn't know. But as she pulled into her parking lot and climbed the stairs to her apartment, Maya realized she was ready to find out. Her phone buzzed as she was getting ready for bed. A text from E. Thank you for today. Sophie hasn't stopped talking about you. She's an amazing kid. You're doing something right. I hope so. I'm mostly just making it up as I go. Aren't we all? Maya? Yeah? I meant what I said. About not knowing how to navigate this. I know. I meant what I said too. Which part? Maya stared at her phone for a long moment, her finger hovering over the keyboard. Then she typed 6 words that changed everything. The part about making mistakes anyway. She sent it before she could second-guess herself, then turned off her phone and climbed into bed. Tomorrow she'd worry about boundaries and professional ethics and all the reasons this was complicated. Tomorrow she'd be smart and careful and rational. But tonight, she'd just let herself feel hope. And for the first time since coffee cups shattered on bamboo floors, that felt like enough. Monday morning arrived with the kind of nervous energy that made Maya's hands shake as she applied her mascara. She'd spent most of Sunday replaying Saturday in her mind. Sophie's laughter, Ethan's confession in the car, the 6 words she'd texted before turning off her phone like a coward, the part about making mistakes anyway. What had she been thinking? She worked for him. There were policies, ethics clauses, entire HR departments designed to prevent exactly this kind of complication. And yet, here she was, walking into the PMS building at 7:45 on a Monday morning, her heart racing at the prospect of seeing him. The elevator ride to the 23rd floor felt endless. When the doors finally opened, Maya took a breath and stepped out into the reception area. Jennifer was already at her desk, phone pressed to her ear. She waved at Maya with her free hand, mouthing something that looked like client emergency. Maya nodded and headed toward her office, grateful for the temporary reprieve. She was halfway down the hallway when she heard his voice. Maya, do you have a minute? She turned to find Ethan standing in his office doorway, looking professional and composed in a navy suit. But his eyes told a different story. They held the same uncertainty Maya felt churning in her stomach. Of course, Mr. Walker. His mouth tightened slightly at the formality, but he stepped back to let her enter his office. The door closed with a soft click, and suddenly they were alone for the first time since Saturday night. How was the rest of your weekend? Ethan asked, moving behind his desk but not sitting. Quiet, productive. I worked on the campaign timeline. Maya stayed near the door, maintaining physical distance even as the space between them felt charged with everything unspoken. How's Sophie? She asked if you were coming over for dinner again. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. I told her you were very busy with work. Ethan, we need to talk about Saturday. He finally sat, gesturing for Maya to do the same. About what I said. What you said. Maya perched on the edge of the chair across from his desk, her posture rigid. I know. I've been thinking about it all weekend. And? And I think we both said things that were honest, but not necessarily wise. She forced herself to meet his gaze. You're right that this is complicated. But complicated doesn't even begin to cover it. You're my boss, Ethan. There are power dynamics, ethical considerations, company policies. I've read the employee handbook, he interrupted gently. 3 times since Saturday night, actually. There's no explicit policy against relationships between employees, even at different levels. It's discouraged, and it requires disclosure to HR, but it's not forbidden. Maya's heart skipped. You looked into it? Of course I looked into it. Did you think I was going to ignore what's happening between us? I thought we were going to be smart about this, maintain boundaries. We are being smart. Ethan leaned forward, his expression intense. Being smart doesn't mean pretending nothing exists. It means acknowledging what's there and handling it appropriately. And how do we handle it appropriately? Honestly, carefully, with complete transparency. He pulled a folder from his desk drawer. I've been thinking about this all weekend too. If we decide to pursue this, and that's a big if, we do it the right way. We disclose to Jennifer and HR. We maintain absolute professionalism at work. We make sure there's never any question about favoritism or impropriety. Maya stared at the folder, then at Ethan. You're serious about this? I wouldn't have said anything Saturday if I wasn't serious. His voice softened. Maya, I haven't felt this way about anyone since Lisa died. I've been going through the motions for 4 years, being a good father and a decent CEO, but not really living. And then you walked into that hotel room and somehow made me remember what it feels like to actually be alive. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone you barely know. I know. That's why I'm not asking for anything right now. I'm just asking if you feel it too. If I'm the only one lying awake at 3 a.m. wondering what this could be. Maya looked at this man who'd seen her at her worst and somehow still looked at her like she was worth knowing. She thought about Sophie's trust, about conversations that felt too deep for strangers, about the way her chest tightened every time his name appeared on her phone. You're not the only one, she admitted quietly. The relief on Ethan's face was palpable. Okay, so where does that leave us? I don't know. I just started this job, Ethan. The sustainable fashion campaign launches in 3 weeks. I need to prove myself here, need people to respect me for my work, not speculate about my relationship with the CEO. Then we wait. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious solution in the world. We focus on work. We maintain boundaries. We give you time to establish yourself here. And when the campaign launches, when you've proven what you're capable of, which you will, then we revisit this conversation. You'd wait? Just like that? Maya, I waited 4 years to feel anything close to this. I can wait a few more months to do it right. A knock on the door made them both jump. Jennifer stuck her head in, looking apologetic. Sorry to interrupt, but the Cascade Outdoor client just called. They want to move up the presentation to Wednesday. Wednesday? Maya's mind raced. That's in 2 days. I know. Can you handle it? Maya looked at Ethan, who was watching her with complete confidence. Yes, absolutely. Oh, great, I'll let them know. Jennifer disappeared and the moment of intimacy was broken. Maya stood. I should get to work. Maya. Ethan's voice stopped her at the door. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right call. Taking time, establishing yourself. It shows good judgment. I'm not sure I have good judgment anymore, she said honestly. I booked a stranger for a hotel room 6 weeks ago. I'm pretty sure that disqualifies me from making sound decisions. You were in pain. You made an impulsive choice that led you exactly where you needed to be. He smiled. Sometimes the worst decisions turn out to be the best ones. Maya left his office feeling unsteady, but strangely hopeful. They had a plan. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't simple, but it was honest. And after Daniel's betrayal, after Rebecca's lies, honesty felt like the most precious thing in the world. The next 2 days were a blur of preparation. Maya worked late into both evenings, refining the Cascade Outdoor presentation until every slide was perfect. every transition seamless. Sarah helped with the visual design, Marcus ran the numbers 3 times to make sure the budget was airtight, and Amanda built a digital prototype that demonstrated exactly how the campaign would flow across platforms. By Wednesday morning, Maya felt as ready as she'd ever be. The client meeting was at 10. Maya arrived at 9 to set up, running through her talking points one last time. Ethan appeared at 9:30 with coffee and a calm confidence that helped settle her nerves. "You've got this," he said, handing her the cup. "What if they hate it?" "They won't. But even if they do, you'll adjust and make it better. That's what great marketers do." He checked his watch. "I'm going to observe, but this is your presentation. Your show." The Cascade Outdoor team arrived right on time. 3 executives who looked skeptical and 1 creative director who looked bored. Maya took a breath and launched into the presentation. 45 minutes later, the skeptical executives were leaning forward in their chairs, asking questions about implementation timelines and market reach. The board creative director was taking notes and nodding enthusiastically, and Maya felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. "This is brilliant," the creative director said when Maya finished. "The angle about sustainability without sacrificing performance? That's what we've been trying to articulate for 2 years. When can we start?" one of the executives asked. Maya smiled. "We can have initial concepts to you by next week." They shook hands, exchanged business cards, and left looking excited about the partnership. When the conference room door closed behind them, Maya's legs nearly gave out. "Holy hell," she breathed. "Did that just happen?" Sarah whooped. "You killed it! That was amazing." Marcus was grinning. "I've never seen a client go from skeptical to sold that fast." Even Amanda, usually reserved, looked impressed. That was masterclass level presentation skills. Maya looked at Ethan, who was standing by the window with an expression of quiet pride. "Good work, Ms. Collins. That's exactly the kind of campaign that makes PMS a leader in this market." The rest of the team filtered out, leaving Maya and Ethan alone in the conference room. The professional distance they'd maintained all morning felt suddenly fragile. "Thank you," Maya said, "for believing I could do this." "I didn't believe anything. I knew." He moved closer, stopping a careful distance away. "You're exactly as brilliant as I thought you were that first night. You just needed the opportunity to show it." But to Ethan, "I know, professional boundaries. I'm maintaining them." He smiled. "But that doesn't mean I'm not proud of you." Maya's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Is this Maya?" "Sophie's teacher gave Daddy your number. This is Sophie. Can you come to my dinosaur presentation at school on Friday?" "Sophie, Daddy is helping me spell." Maya showed Ethan the screen. "Did you know she was going to text me? I may have mentioned you once or twice, or 30 times. He looked slightly sheepish. "She's very persistent when she wants something." Maya typed back carefully. "Hi, Sophie. I would love to come to your presentation. What time?" The response was immediate. 2 p.m. Daddy says you have to ask your boss if you can leave work early. Tell him it's very important. Maya laughed and showed Ethan again. "Your daughter is using you for leverage. She's strategic, gets it from her mother." His expression softened. "You don't have to go if it's too much. I know we said we were waiting, maintaining boundaries. It's a school presentation. That's not crossing any lines." Maya sent Sophie a confirmation text, then looked at Ethan. "Besides, I promised her I'd come to the park again sometime. I don't break promises to 5-year-olds. Friday's dinosaur presentation turned out to be the highlight of Maya's week. She slipped out of the office at 1:30, drove to Sophie's school, and found a seat in the back of the classroom next to Ethan. "Thank you for coming," he whispered as Sophie prepared her presentation board at the front. "Wouldn't miss it." Sophie's presentation was exactly what Maya expected: thorough, enthusiastic, and complete with hand-drawn illustrations of various dinosaurs in their natural habitats. She explained the difference between the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods with the confidence of a college professor, and when she finished, the entire class applauded. Her eyes found Maya in the audience, and her face lit up with pure joy. After the presentation, Sophie ran over and threw her arms around Maya's waist. "You came!" "Of course I came. I told you I would. Did you like it? Did you learn about dinosaurs?" I learned that you're going to be a paleontologist someday and probably discover a new species. Sophie beamed. That's my plan. Ethan was watching them with an expression that made Maya's heart ache. Love, grief, hope, all tangled together in a way that suggested he was seeing his late wife and his daughter's enthusiasm. They walked out to the parking lot together, Sophie chattering between them about the other presentations and which ones were most scientifically accurate. Maya, are you coming to dinner? Sophie asked when they reached Ethan's car. Sophie, Maya probably has plans, Ethan started. Actually, I don't. Maya looked at Ethan. But only if it's okay. It's more than okay. Something passed between them, a recognition that they were blurring lines they'd agreed to keep clear. But Sophie's hopeful expression made it impossible to say no. They went to the same pizza place, ordered the same pepperoni pizza, sat at the same table in the back corner. But this time felt different. Less like an accident, more like a choice. Sophie dominated the conversation, still riding high on her successful presentation. But eventually she started yawning between bites of pizza, and Ethan checked his watch. Someone's past her bedtime. I'm not tired, Sophie protested, yawning again. Right, which is why you're using your pizza as a pillow. Maya smiled. I should probably get going anyway. No! Sophie sat up straighter. Can Maya read me a bedtime story, please? Ethan and Maya locked eyes across the table. This was definitely crossing a line. Bedtime stories meant going to Ethan's house, being part of Sophie's routine, integrating into their life in a way that felt significant. If your dad says it's okay, Maya heard herself say. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. One story. They drove to Ethan's house in separate cars, Maya following his SUV through streets that got progressively more residential, more family-oriented. His house was a craftsman-style bungalow in Wallingford, with a yard that had evidence of 5-year-old occupation, a pink bicycle, chalk drawings on the driveway, a small garden that looked lovingly tended. Inside was even better. Warm, lived in, full of photographs and Sophie's artwork and the kind of comfortable mess that came from actually living rather than staging. Maya saw pictures of Ethan with a beautiful woman who had Sophie's curly hair and bright smile. Lisa, his late wife. That's my mommy, Sophie said, following Maya's gaze. Daddy says she's watching over me from heaven, but I think she's probably just in the stars because that makes more scientific sense. Maya's throat tightened. The stars are a good place to be. Sophie led her upstairs to a bedroom decorated in various shades of purple and covered in dinosaur posters. She changed into pajamas, brushed her teeth, and climbed into bed with a worn, stuffed stegosaurus. This is Spike, she said. He likes stories about adventures. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, while Ethan leaned in the doorway, watching. She picked up the book Sophie handed her, something about a dinosaur who was afraid of the dark, and started reading. Halfway through, Sophie's breathing evened out. By the last page, she was asleep, one hand still clutching Spike. Maya set the book down carefully and stood. Ethan came into the room and pulled Sophie's blanket up to her chin, kissed her forehead, and whispered something too quiet for Maya to hear. They left the room together, pulling the door nearly closed. Downstairs, the house felt different in the quiet, more intimate, more real. Thank you, Ethan said, for coming today, for being so good with her. She's easy to be good with. You've raised an amazing kid. We raised her, me and Lisa. He moved to the mantel, picked up a photo of the three of them, younger Ethan, the woman from the photos, and baby Sophie. I talk about her sometimes with Sophie, want to make sure she knows her mother. But it's been 4 years, and sometimes I wonder if I'm holding on to grief instead of honoring memory. Maya came to stand beside him. I think you're doing both, and that's okay. Is it? He set the photo down. Because some days it feels like I'm stuck. Like I built this life with Lisa, and when she died, I just stopped. Kept going through the motions for Sophie, but stopped actually living. That night in the hotel room, you told me you understood what it felt like when life doesn't look anything like you thought it would. I did, and I meant it. So maybe that's what this is about. Both of us figuring out how to build lives that look different than we planned but still feel worth living. Ethan turned to face her fully. Maya, I need to tell you something. Okay? I wasn't entirely honest with you about the hotel room. He took a breath. It wasn't a complete accident. The room number mix-up was real, but when you opened the door and looked so lost, I knew you thought I was someone else. I should have corrected you immediately, but you looked like I felt like everything had fallen apart, and I thought maybe I could help. Just for an hour. Then I'd leave and you'd never know. Maya's heart was pounding. Why are you telling me this now? Because we said honesty, complete transparency. And I can't start something with you, even if we're waiting, with that between us. His eyes were intense on hers. I'm sorry I didn't tell you right away. I'm sorry I let you believe it was pure chance. Maya processed this, turning it over in her mind. He'd known. He'd stayed anyway. Not because he was hired to, not because he had to, but because he'd seen someone in pain and wanted to help. I'm not angry, she said finally. No? No. If anything, it makes it better. You chose to stay. That matters more than the circumstances that put you there. She stepped closer. Ethan, we've been dancing around this for weeks, saying we're going to wait, maintain boundaries, be professional, but I don't think I can do this halfway. Either we try or we don't, but this middle ground is killing me. The campaign launches in 2 weeks. You said you wanted to establish yourself first. I know what I said, but I also know that I can't stop thinking about you. That I miss you when I'm not with you. That reading bedtime stories to your daughter feels more right than 5 years with Daniel ever did. She reached up, her hand hovering near his face. So I'm asking, do you want to try this? Really try it? With all the complications and the HR disclosures and the gossip and everything else? Ethan caught her hand, pressed it against his cheek. Yes, God, yes. Then we do it right. We tell Jennifer and HR on Monday. We make sure everything is documented and above board. We don't hide, but we don't flaunt it either. We're just two people who work together and happen to care about each other. When did you get so brave? Maya laughed. I'm terrified, but I'm tired of making decisions based on fear. Daniel taught me what happens when you stay in something that's not right because it's comfortable. I don't want to walk away from something that could be amazing because it's complicated. Ethan pulled her closer, slowly enough that she could pull away if she wanted to. But Maya didn't want to. She let him wrap his arms around her, let herself melt into the embrace, let herself feel safe in a way she hadn't since coffee cups shattered on bamboo floors. We're really doing this, he murmured against her hair. We're really doing this. They stood like that for a long time, just holding each other in his quiet living room while Sophie slept upstairs, and the Seattle night pressed against the windows. It felt like the beginning of something, not perfect, not simple, but real. Eventually, Maya pulled back. I should go. It's late, and we both have work tomorrow. Stay. Ethan's voice was quiet. Not like that, just stay. We can watch a movie, talk, fall asleep on opposite ends of the couch like adults who are taking things slow. Maya knew she should say no, knew this was moving too fast, crossing too many lines too quickly. But she also knew that leaving felt wrong, that this man and his daughter and this warm, messy house felt more like home than anywhere she'd been in years. Okay, she said, one movie. They ended up watching some documentary about the Jurassic period that Ethan admitted he'd seen at least 15 times. Maya fell asleep 20 minutes in, her head on Ethan's shoulder, his arm around her waist. She woke up at dawn, disoriented, to find herself covered with a blanket and Ethan asleep in the chair across from her, his neck bent at an uncomfortable angle. Maya stood carefully, not wanting to wake him. She found a notepad in the kitchen and scrawled a quick message. Thank you for last night. For the honesty. For the movie I didn't actually watch. See you Monday. M. She let herself out quietly and drove home through empty streets, watching the sun rise over the Cascades. Her phone buzzed as she was parking. Thank you for staying, for trusting me, for making me remember what it feels like to hope. Monday morning, Maya and Ethan walked into Jennifer's office together. We need to talk to you about something, Ethan said. Jennifer looked between them, her expression carefully neutral. Okay. Maya and I have developed feelings for each other. We wanted to disclose this to you and HR before pursuing a relationship, in accordance with company policy. To her credit, Jennifer didn't look surprised. How long has this been going on? Technically, we met before Maya started working here, Ethan explained. But we've maintained professional boundaries throughout her employment. We're here now because we'd like to explore a personal relationship while ensuring it doesn't impact the workplace. Jennifer was quiet for a moment, tapping her pen against her desk. I'm going to be honest with you both. This is complicated. There will be talk, speculation, questions about favoritism. Maya, your work will be scrutinized more carefully. Ethan, your judgment will be questioned. We understand, Maya said, but we're willing to deal with that if we can do this honestly and openly. All right, here's what we're going to do. Jennifer pulled out a form. You'll both sign this disclosure. It goes to HR and gets filed. Maya, you'll report directly to me instead of Ethan for the duration of your relationship. All reviews, raises, and promotions will be handled by me and the board, with Ethan recusing himself from those decisions. And if this doesn't work out, you both need to commit to handling it professionally. They signed the forms. Maya felt the weight of what they were doing, the risk, the exposure, the potential for everything to go wrong. But she also felt lighter than she had in months. Over the next 2 weeks, Maya threw herself into the sustainable fashion campaign. The launch was scheduled for the first week of April, and every detail had to be perfect. Sarah's videos were stunning. Marcus had secured partnerships with 3 major retailers, and Amanda's social media strategy was already generating buzz. The night before the launch, Maya worked until 9, obsessively checking every element one more time. She was so focused she didn't hear Ethan come into her office until he spoke. You need to go home. She looked up, startled. I'm almost done. You've been almost done for 3 hours. Go home, Maya. Get some sleep. The campaign is brilliant, and tomorrow's going to be amazing. What if something goes wrong? Then we'll fix it, together. He came around her desk, held out his hand. Come on, I'm driving you home. I have my car. So you'll pick it up tomorrow? Maya, you're exhausted. Let me take care of you. She let him lead her out of the building, too tired to argue. They drove through the Seattle night in comfortable silence, and when they reached her apartment, Ethan walked her to her door. Thank you, Maya said, for everything. For believing in me, for being patient, for... He kissed her. It was soft, gentle, everything their first kiss should be. Maya melted into it, her hands finding their way to his chest, his arms wrapping around her waist. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that since the hotel room, he admitted. That would have been a terrible first kiss. I was a disaster. You were honest. That's better. He kissed her again, briefer this time. Get some sleep. Tomorrow, you're going to change everything. The campaign launch exceeded every expectation. The videos went viral within hours. The social media engagement was through the roof, and by end of day, the client had called 3 times to express their excitement. Maya's phone was flooded with congratulations from colleagues, industry contacts, even a few former professors who'd seen the campaign online. The team went out to celebrate, and Maya found herself surrounded by people who genuinely respected her work, who saw her as a colleague and friend rather than the boss's girlfriend. Sarah made a toast about Maya's vision, Marcus praised her leadership, and Amanda admitted she'd been skeptical about the new hire, but was thrilled to be wrong. Ethan stayed in the background, letting Maya have her moment, but when their eyes met across the bar, the pride in his expression said everything. Later, after the celebration wound down, Ethan drove Maya home again. They sat in his car outside her apartment, neither quite ready to say goodnight. Your late wife would be proud of you, Maya said quietly. Of the father you are, the man you've become. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. I think she'd like you. Lisa was always pushing me to take risks, to not get stuck and comfortable. She'd probably say I waited too long to kiss you. How long did you wait? From the moment you told me about the coffee cups, I knew I was in trouble. Maya laughed. That's a weird thing to fall for someone over. Not when they're being that honest about their pain. He reached across the console, took her hand. Maya, I know we're still figuring this out. I know it's complicated with Sophie and work and everything else. But I need you to know, this isn't casual for me. You're not a rebound or a distraction. You're someone I could actually see a future with. That's terrifying. I know. But it's also exactly what I want. She squeezed his hand. I'm all in, Ethan, with you, with Sophie, with whatever comes next. Even if what comes next is a 5-year-old's constant dinosaur facts. Especially that. They kissed goodnight in the car like teenagers, and Maya floated up to her apartment feeling like the universe had finally, improbably, impossibly aligned in her favor. 6 months later, Maya stood in the PMS conference room presenting a campaign that had won 3 industry awards. The sustainable fashion client had expanded their partnership, and Maya's work had attracted 2 major new accounts. She'd proven herself a dozen times over, and the whispers about her relationship with Ethan had faded into acceptance. After the presentation, Sophie ran up to her. She'd started coming to the office occasionally on Fridays, doing homework in the break room while Ethan finished his day. That was so good, Sophie announced, even though there weren't any dinosaurs. Next campaign, I promised to include at least one velociraptor reference. Really? If it makes sense, absolutely. Ethan appeared beside them, his hand finding Maya's lower back in a gesture that had become natural over the past months. Ready to go? We have dinner reservations. Fancy dinner? Sophie asked suspiciously. Very fancy. You have to use your napkin and everything. They drove to the restaurant together, the 3 of them, a family unit that had formed gradually but felt inevitable. Over pasta, Sophie told them about her upcoming science fair project. Ethan complained about a difficult board meeting. Maya shared the news that she'd been asked to speak at a marketing conference in San Francisco. It was ordinary, normal, exactly the kind of evening Maya had stopped believing she deserved. After dinner, they dropped Sophie at Ethan's mother's house for a sleepover and drove to Discovery Park. They walked down to the lighthouse, the same place Maya had stood 6 months ago trying to decide whether to accept the job offer. I proposed to Lisa here, Ethan said, looking out at the water. Different season, different life, but the same view. Maya's heart clenched. You don't have to. I want to. He turned to face her. I want you to know that I'm not trying to recreate what I had with her. You're not a replacement for Lisa. You're something completely different, something I didn't know I needed until you walked into that hotel room looking for someone to listen. Ethan, I'm not proposing, he said quickly. We're not there yet. But I wanted you to know that this is real for me, that I see a future with you, that 6 months ago I couldn't imagine feeling this way about anyone again, and now I can't imagine not feeling this way about you. Maya stepped into his arms, pressing her face against his chest. I love you. I should have said it before now, but I was scared. Scared it was too soon, scared I was moving too fast, scared of 1,000 things that don't actually matter. I love you too. He kissed the top of her head. And for what it's worth, I think you have excellent timing. They stood there as the sun set over the Olympics, 2 broken people who'd somehow found each other in the wreckage and built something beautiful from the pieces. Maya thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, devastated, humiliated, convinced she was fundamentally broken. She thought about coffee cups shattering on bamboo floors in hotel rooms and wrong decisions that turned into right ones. She thought about how far she'd come, from existing to actually living, from trusting no one to trusting this man who'd seen her at her worst and somehow convinced her she deserved better. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For staying. That night in the hotel. You could have just corrected me and left, but you stayed. Best decision I ever made. Ethan pulled back to look at her face. You know what the second best decision was? What? Giving you that job offer, even though I knew it would complicate everything. Maya laughed. That was a terrible decision that worked out incredibly well. Story of us. He kissed her softly. Ready to go home? Home. His house had become theirs gradually. Her toothbrush in the bathroom, her clothes in the closet, her name on Sophie's emergency contact list at school. It wasn't official, they hadn't made any grand announcements, but it was real. They drove back through the Seattle night with the windows down, cool air rushing through the car. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Dinner next Sunday? I want to hear about the awards and bring Ethan and Sophie. I'm making lasagna. Maya smiled and typed back a confirmation. Her mother had taken to Ethan and Sophie immediately, treating them like the family Maya deserved rather than the family she'd lost. When they got home, Ethan made tea while Maya changed into comfortable clothes. They ended up on the couch, her feet in his lap, talking about nothing and everything while some documentary played unwatched on the television. "Do you ever think about that night?" Maya asked. "The hotel room?" "All the time." "Me too. I keep thinking about how different my life would be if you hadn't gotten off on the wrong floor, if you hadn't stayed, if any of it had gone differently." "I think we would have found each other eventually," Ethan said. "Maybe at your interview, maybe at the office, maybe somewhere else entirely. Some things are just meant to happen. You don't strike me as someone who believes in fate." "I didn't. Until you." He set down his tea and pulled her closer. "Now I think maybe the universe has a sense of humor. Or timing. Or both." Maya settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, feeling safer than she had in years. Outside, Seattle hummed with its usual nighttime energy. Inside, everything was quiet and warm and exactly where it needed to be. Her phone buzzed one more time, a text from Sarah. "Congrats again on the awards. You've come so far in 6 months. Proud to work with you." Maya sent back a heart emoji and set her phone aside. 6 months. Half a year since she'd walked into a hotel room expecting to hire a stranger, and instead found someone who'd help her rebuild her entire life. She thought about Daniel sometimes, but only in the abstract, the way you think about someone from your past who shaped you but no longer defines you. She'd heard through mutual friends that he and Rebecca had broken up, that he'd moved to Portland, that he was seeing someone new. Maya wished him well, genuinely. He'd taught her what she didn't want, which made it easier to recognize what she did. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked. "How far I've come. How different everything is." "Good different?" "The best different." She tilted her head up to kiss him. "I thought my life was falling apart that day. Turned out it was just falling into place." They stayed up late talking about Sophie's upcoming birthday, about the San Francisco conference, about whether they should get a dog. Ordinary plans for an ordinary life that felt extraordinary because they'd both learned to appreciate it. Eventually, exhaustion won. They went upstairs to the bedroom that used to be just his, but now belonged to both of them. Maya brushed her teeth next to photos of Lisa, and it didn't feel weird anymore. Lisa was part of their story, part of what made Ethan who he was. Honoring her memory didn't diminish what they were building. As Maya drifted off to sleep, Ethan's arms around her, she thought about the note he'd left at the hotel. "You're not broken. You're just breaking through to something better." He'd been right. She had broken through grief, through betrayal, through fear and doubt, and all the walls she'd built to protect herself. And on the other side was this: love, family, work that mattered, a future that felt worth building. Maya Collins fell asleep smiling, in a house that smelled like home, next to a man who'd chosen to stay when he could have left, in a life she never could have planned but wouldn't change for anything. Sometimes the best stories start with the worst days. Sometimes coffee cups shattering on bamboo floors are just the beginning of something beautiful. And sometimes a stranger walking into the wrong hotel room at exactly the right moment can change everything. This was Maya's story. Not the one she'd written for herself, but the one the universe had written for her. And it was better than anything she could have imagined.